Good evening. Welcome to the March 14th, 2024 Northampton School Committee meeting. I'm Jean-Louise Shara, the chair of the school committee, and I'll be presiding this evening. Apologies to everyone that we are getting a late start. We are having always new and changing technical difficulties in this room. This meeting is being held both remotely on Zoom pursuant to the modification of the state's open meeting law for the pandemic and in person here in the community room at JFK Middle School. This meeting and all participating will be audio and video recorded. And I will begin by asking Michelle to please call the roll of the school committee.
Mayor Shara.
Present.
Member Gazy.
Here.
Member Foster Cannon.
Here.
Member Seraphy Cox.
I heard my name.
Doing roll call.
Oh, okay. I couldn't hear anything before that, so, but I'm
Did you
present.
mute?
Thank you. Member Stein.
Present.
Member Hennessy.
Present.
Member Miller.
Present.
Member Labonte.
Here.
Member Agna.
Present.
Member Davis.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. So let's just test.
My computer says the host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves.
Well, you need to be, are you a co-host?
Alien, I may not have done hers.
Let's make, but,
I can do that. Most of them are there.
so my question is, Anne,
You
or,
all may already know this, but we cannot hear.
that was my question,
anymore.
so.
Now can I hear the room?
Yeah.
You cannot hear this on Zoom?
Sounds like a no.
That's.
Anne says she can hear Emily on the Zoom, but not
Sure,
the room.
that makes sense, but. Right, oh, not Anne?
Could you unmute the Northampton Open Media account on Zoom?
Got it. But that's done.
Find it, Portia.
How about now?
I got it. Did I hit it?
Yep.
But you're still,
again.
you're muted again.
We heard something for a brief.
I didn't touch
Okay, can you make them a co-host? That way
it.
they
I thought I
can,
did too.
or not. Okay, what's our option?
Probably cancel.
What if we individually
Or she can go up there, that's true. Not it. You go and speak right at that. That's the idea. Okay, yeah. So you can bring, gonna be a number to have two laptops. What was, I don't think, great, okay. Yes. So we had, something. Yeah, we're not there.
You know what's gonna be a problem? Can't make it up, right?
Or should we postpone it? That, yeah.
Maybe the spotlight should be postponed.
What, did you wanna postpone the leads?
If we can't properly, like,
Give it the attention.
That's
I mean, we'll be able to. Watch it. Oh, it's good. It's just the folks there, that's gonna be the only one. There's a. That's okay.
That's okay.
We can make that work.
Okay.
We can make that work. We can watch all the presentation in this video. Okay, and then we have one.
Now, help me. What,
So the video.
what is that? Select the
I mean,
view and I
the
click
video
this.
is not gonna be on these screens.
No, you gotta unmute that, but then we have to, so let me, this is what I hate doing.
And that laptop up there at the podium can play it, but that's gonna be.
Michelle, to get back to my
We can't get any of these.
I'm trying to make this a small screen so I could play the, well, let me just do it this way. Should I share it or open it first? Open it. I'm screen sharing.
Or what are the big screens attached to?
Nothing right now. Everything's crashed and not connected. It just keeps crashing. I mean, someone could try going into Chrome and see if you can.
Okay,
I don't think so.
so are we, when
So
you're
we're actually
ready.
not at that yet, but, all right, so we've done roll call. So let's just go quickly to, we'll
Here you
maybe-
go. You guys can just airplay to the thing. That's what. It's called eShare 1872. So anyone with a Mac, I can show you how to do it if you want. You can just screen share and it'll show your screen on all those TVs.
Wow.
Yeah, but.
Okay, did you say 1872 or 1820?
Anybody who does, doesn't matter who. Anybody up there who does.
We could.
Yeah, just eShare 1872. Did someone always show them how to do it?
So
So what you should.
they're able to get onto these.
Yeah, that could be.
Oh, did you just fix it?
No.
Oh,
And so if she's able to do that, then there's something definitely wrong with privacy and protocol getting on that screen.
so it's eShare 1812, not.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's a concern.
Are you trying to want to get that?
Although it was impressive, that's a
Um,
concern.
We could.
yes, for the
You can
present,
use the wireless presentation dongle to share your screen. It works with my phone. I can just join the Zoom on my phone. line.
Yeah. The problem is, I mean, the audio is a different story, but yeah.
Yeah,
You
but
could give video visuals up here then.
I think that's all.
There's probably multiple ways to share on this too. Did you change to it's still the Android side?
so while they're doing,
For some reason it's blocked.
It is.
I don't know why it blocks the computer. Each share dot app.
we'll just have Molly do the norms while we're,
Yes.
okay.
While she's talking.
Yeah.
My phone worked fine. If someone has a phone, they can join with their phone. They're on Zoom and.
Hey, Holly,
Yes.
to just get this moving a little bit, could you do the norms while we're troubleshooting this? So I'm gonna mute and you're gonna unmute.
Let me.
Well, it works with my phone, as everyone saw, but the one with the computer, I think it's probably like.
Okay, so we've been looking at our school committee agreements in action. Last meeting on February 13th, we graded ourselves on 0 does not meet expectations, 1 partially met, and 2 meets. We talked about looking at the lowest scores and lifting them up so that we can keep them in mind for this coming meeting. We had 2 that are very close together, so I'll talk about them both. Respectfully challenge the idea, not the person. Patience was 1. And actively and respectfully listen to, consider, and build on shared ideas and perspectives. Both of those got many 0 votes. So any ideas about how we can do this? We've got like 2 minutes to consider this.
Anyone? Anyone have anything?
It is going to be hard considering that we're talking budget to be so patient, but then if nobody's got any active ideas about how to do that. Oh, Emily, go ahead, Emily.
I have like half of an idea. Can you tell,
But we
can you
can't hear
say
her now.
the,
Unless
you
we
can't hear,
can't hear her because she
you can't hear me at all?
oh, if one person, maybe if I unmute.
No, it's not about muting. It's about
Well, I'm
turning your.
unmuted right now, so let me turn up my volume.
There you go.
Okay, Emily, try it now.
Okay, I said that I have maybe half of the idea, and I was wondering if you could read the 2 things that were graded the lowest again.
Respectfully challenge the idea, not the person. Patience, that's 1. Actively and respectfully listen to, consider, and build on shared ideas and perspectives.
Yeah, I think it's the shared ideas and perspectives, like the building on shared ideas and perspectives piece that I excuse me, but I hope at least will help build on some of the others. And so I think, listening to other people's perspectives and understanding how they tie into your own perspectives and trying to come up with ways in which we can move forward that honor those perspectives together as much as possible. I mean, I understand that I'm more or less restating the goal itself. I guess I'm just saying that, especially for a budget meeting, it strikes me that that one is going to be especially important.
Through that, the first one about respectfully challenging the ideas, if we can all keep that in mind, because that got the lowest score. Which computer do I have to mute?
Oh, wait, no, not you.
Did you unmute?
I unmuted. So the only thing I think is that sometimes helps with that is to repeat back to the person who said something and say something like, let me make sure I've got this straight. You're saying XYZ, and then the person can clarify, and then you, after that, then you can offer your opinions or thoughts about that. But again, it's about respectful exchange and listening well, repeating back, saying, I heard this, and then you can express your own point of view. But that sometimes helps with making sure that the communicating is respectful. That's all I had to say.
Okay.
So I'd like to just echo what Member Miller said and also suggest that one of the things that we hoped would come out of this is just lifting up some norms that we all decided were challenging for us. And so by reporting on what we found challenging in itself is a reminder and hopefully something that we can take in. And I think about the ways that we speak to children. We ask them to use iMessages rather than you do this or you do that. We say, I think, or I'm wondering, or I, rather than putting it out to the other person, which I think engenders respect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those suggestions. Let's move on to Nadia and the student representative report. Because I promised you 7:30, so let's try and hit that mark. If you're not on that Zoom, you can either maybe Member Stein can help you there, or you can go up to there, whichever is easiest for you, Nadia.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Nadia Lamuzek. I'm filling in for Zara today. She couldn't make it. But I am a sophomore and I'm another member of Student Union. First, I have a few updates just about what's going on in the NHS community. So today is our opening night of the NHS musical Freaky Friday. Zara is playing in the pit band, and that is playing through Sunday the 17th. Additionally, the Student Union is also continuing our candle sell. So if anyone wants to come by and support the community, it'd be a great opportunity. On some other exciting news, our girls basketball team made it past the round of 8 after their win against Walpole last Friday and went on to play against South High Community in the round of 4 this Tuesday. They unfortunately did not win, yet they played a very strong game, and we're all very impressed by how well they played this season. A new flex block has also been implemented as of last Friday. This involves removing the weekly mentor Monday meetings with the expectation that they will only be scheduled as needed. First period is extended by 5 minutes every day. During this time, students can sign up for flex block and teachers will read the daily bulletin, which is like an informational document about updates in the school. And flex block is now 30 minutes instead of 35. Lastly, the Student Union has been discussing the state of our district's budget, and we have prepared a statement I will now read. To start off, this is a statement by the NHS Student Union. We are a group made up of 16 students, 4 elected from each grade. We examine the student experience at NHS and advocate for student needs through collaborative work and communication with the administration. To preface it, we want to acknowledge the danger of taking money from non-renewable sources and are not advocating for the continuation of that practice in any form. Rather, we urge the mayor and city council to find other solutions, like increasing the amount of money available to the district or pursuing pilot payment in lieu of taxes programs with local nonprofits. So we've broken up our statement into 3 different subcategories. The first one being surrounding classes. One of the current appeals of NHS is the wide variety of classes offered. Students can enroll in plenty of specialized classes, and our peers look forward to taking high-level electives from their first year. It's an exciting step for rising ninth graders to be able to take classes that correlate with their diverse interests. And not only are incoming students drawn to the wide range of classes, but so are currently enrolled students. As students go through high school and further discover and develop their interests, electives offered, especially honors and AP courses, are a great way to dive deeper into a certain subject. NHS should and is meant to prepare a student for a variety of different paths after high school, whether it be trade careers, military, or college. Cutting these elective classes fails our students. Without these options, students are unable to take classes that support their interests and explore other disciplines. Besides supporting student interests, elective classes are likely to be the ones that teach the histories and experiences of historically marginalized peoples. As the union has identified in previous years, the high school only offers 6 classes that fit our description of that cover underrepresented people fully and comprehensively. All 6 of these courses are at risk of being cut from the program of studies if there isn't money to fund them. Additionally, with electives being cut, already large class sizes will increase. With just regarding general physical space, students are seated uncomfortably back to back. But more importantly, access to individual help and flex block is hard to find, especially in science and math classes. And most importantly, large numbers pose a safety concern. In the situation there's a lockdown, there isn't any space for all students to shelter far away from classroom entrances, not to mention that students with IEPs may find it harder to focus in a crowded classroom. Additionally, as a result of the budget constraints, there has been a shortage of staff available to monitor bathrooms. Many of the bathrooms are locked and closed throughout the entire school day. The school currently needs 2 more staff members to be able to keep the bathrooms open. These staff are not only necessary for student safety, but also to build a foundation of trust in the relationships between the students and adults in our building. The absence of these monitors creates an easy opportunity for students to do things like use illegal substances in bathrooms, which makes many students feel socially and physically unsafe in the environment. On average, 2 of the 3 main bathrooms for each of the sexes are locked during the day because there are no staff to watch them. In the single bathroom that is open, there is often a large line out the door, which makes students spend a significant large time amount of class. Not only that, but the open bathroom as well as staff bathrooms are often not fully stocked with paper towels because of the lack of custodial staff. The extent to which NHS is understaffed is taking away from the ability to access bathrooms and affecting our general community well-being. Another problem is the reliability of buses. The reliability of buses is also impacted by employee shortages. Bus drivers will sometimes have to take 2 different routes of students to school due to insufficient staffing. This causes tardiness and classroom interruptions for every student on said bus. Additionally, field trips and out-of-school experiences are rare due to high costs. Currently, these trips are funded by the Northampton Education Foundation, but students often end up paying out of pocket to participate, which makes inclusion difficult, especially for low-income students. Recreational buses are a great resource, but they're not big enough to meet the needs of NHS. Dependable transportation is also necessary to support our sports teams' trips to away games and allow for more student spectators. The need for this staffing goes beyond transportation. Our classroom teachers need more support too. Teachers are spending more time outside of class and missing important content due to hallway disruptions, which additional staff could help with. It is normal for teachers to use their own out-of-pocket money to pay for classroom materials. They need more support with classroom supplies and snacks, especially the art and science department, where the supplies are necessary for the class to function. To summarize, with a tight budget to begin with, making reductions to offered electives and increasing class size will not allow our school district to maintain its competitive edge. This results in further money spent on this out-of-district placement, as the district must pay for students whose school choice and transfer to charter schools. Naturally, this priority will always be to keep our school functioning, so spending on special opportunities will be the first part of our school cut. This will yet again reduce our competitiveness, which just adds to this cycle of loss for the district. Northampton High School is already underfunded and understaffed in comparison to similar surrounding schools. For example, some districts most comparable locally, Amherst Regional High School has a student-teacher ratio of 11.6 to 1. Longmeadow has a high school ratio of 11.1 to 1. But however, the student-teacher ratio at Northampton High is 14.5 to 1. Similarly, Northampton Public Schools spend about $18,200 per student, as seen in 2022, while Amherst spends about $24,200. NHS is also struggling to maintain proper supervision of all spaces and to support students' mental health needs. Even if money were to be added to our budget, it would go to maintaining the current status of our school and funding its level services, which doesn't allow for any long-term improvement. In its current state, Northampton High School is not in a position to both reduce spending and provide students with a quality education. Thank you. I don't know, does anyone?
Anyone have any questions for Nadia?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, remember, I have
Trying. Now I'm unmuted. Does that work? I'm kind of blown away. Thank you for all of that you reported on, and I know it reflects the students, not only you, but the way you presented it was very effective. And I just want to say that all of us, I believe, are really hoping that this won't compromise the education at the high school. And we really understand that you have great needs there. So I want to thank you so much for saying all that you said, and please tell the student union that too. Thank you.
any other? Okay, member Seraphy Cox.
Just I mean, echoing the thanks from member Agna, but also a quick clarification. My understanding about transportation, like the bus drivers, there's absolutely a shortage of them, but it's my understanding that that does not come from out like a lack of money that the district is paying. That's actually a lack of bus drivers being able to be hired by the bus company. Am I understanding that correctly, Dr. Bonner?
That is correct.
Okay, yeah, so
That is
certainly not to undermine, the experience of the students in any way, but just so, the public is aware that particular issue is not one that can be addressed with our budget this evening.
Okay, thank you, member Seraphy Cox. Any other? I don't see any others, so thank you again, Nadia. Oh,
Ann.
sorry,
Sorry.
member Hennessy.
Sorry, I was late.
Unmute, yeah.
Yes, this is Ann Hennessy. Nadia, I just want to reiterate what member Agnes said. That was quite possibly the most articulate commentary on our budget. And I just want to thank you and the student union for that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're gonna do the lead spotlight, right? We feel like we've got this figured out.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you, Nadia. Okay, principal ones. And so I'm gonna mute here and we're gonna unmute there, yeah? And we can press play from there, or?
I hope it is still on the screen. I think it is.
The guy in the back. They're controlling it out there.
Welcome to the Leeds Elementary School Spotlight. Now you'll hear from one of our Speaking of friends, now two of our students will introduce Remy.
Here, Remy. He's a good boy. Remy can do a lot of things like helping kids and greeting people. Remy also helps people when they're feeling sad, mad, or generally just confused. And he also puts a lot of smiles on our faces. And that's why I would like to introduce you to Remy.
Our district recently adopted the Bridges math curriculum for preschool through grade 2 and illustrative math for grades 3 through 5.
Well,
We adopted Number Corner for kin.
there we go.
And they unmuted.
So they hear a little, just
Yeah. Sorry.
But when they're sharing their screen, it needs to say that they're sharing their computer audio. So that would yes.
They can hear Chris.
Yeah.
They go just like those.
they can't.
But
It's hard to hear the video.
coming out of the speaker and.
It's set automatically, so. Understand. Which is really kind of annoying. It's hard. Share sound. Okay, let's try it. Is that better? No, you can't. Oh,
Kindergarten through grade 5. Number Corner is a skill building program revolving around the classroom calendar. Students engage in daily practice and have continual encounters with broader mathematical concepts through the month, as you can see in some of these clips.
is it better? Is it better? Oh,
To read, aren't they, than last month? This one? Yeah, March 6th.
I think the next
One's hard to hear.
Right side up, but I think that one's outside, but you can't see
Yeah, let's start doing the locations. What could you say for this one? What could you say for this one? Evelyn, where do you think this picture is?
Like in a desert. If you look at the shapes again, first one is indoor, outdoor, indoor, outdoor, indoor. The next cone is probably going to be outdoor.
How do you know this is indoor?
Because there's a wall.
Anyone else have a prediction? Natalie, what do you think?
Digital.
You think it's digital. Why do you think it's digital?
Because it goes red, yellow, green, brown, digital. And it's gonna be digital.
I like the way you're looking at all our information.
6.
You think it's going to be 6?
Yeah.
6 what?
O'clock.
You think yesterday was 6 o'clock.
No,
So let's.
no, today. Wait.
So we have to do yesterday and today. So let's look at our pattern. We have red, yellow,
green, brown,
digital, red,
yellow, green, brown, digital.
So you think it's digital, and what time do you think it's going to be? If we look at the pattern over here, we have 30 minutes, 30 minutes,
1 hour,
30 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour.
Tonight I'm here to help you understand what we do at Leeds to help kids learn to read. We have fully shifted to the evidence-based science of reading approach, and I'm giving you a glimpse of what that means. Of course, it looks different at the various grade levels. I'm going to highlight the early childhood piece of the process.
P, pan, puh. P, pan, puh. What starts with the letter P? Pan. We know that one.
Our Haggerty program starts us off addressing phonemic awareness, where students are taught to pay attention to all the sounds they hear in words. Strong phonemic awareness can help you spell the word teacher, but it will be spelled unconventionally until you learn phonics skills. For instance, think about the word teacher. Teacher includes the vowel team EA, the digraph CH, and the boss ER. Students put their phonics knowledge into action when they decode words.
1 syllable. If it has a short vowel. If it ends in F, L, S, or Z, then it's a floss. Then it's a floss rule. Oh yeah.
Small group instruction allows us to hone in on the individual needs of our students. We don't take things for granted. We ask them questions, check for understanding, and probe deeper. Which brings me to the next area of focus, comprehension. Students are given opportunities to put their skills into action with decodable text. These books provide students the opportunity to read words following learned phonics patterns and incorporating known sight words.
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah. You can hop on a rug.
Can you show me how you do that?
You can hop on a rug.
You're right, you can. Okay.
And there's a rug right there. We'll step in
Yeah,
on it.
perfect.
Can you fix a hat? Yes.
Read it nice and smooth.
Can you fix a hat? Can you?
What do you think?
Yeah.
I think you could if it was broken. All right, ready for another one?
Can you run in a lip?
What do you think?
No. Can you run
silly.
in a lip? That's a lip.
Yeah, you're right. That's so silly.
Can you run your hand in a lip?
Oh, that you could do, right? Fluency is a combination of automaticity and prosody. The early childhood program starts with letters and sound fluency, progresses to words, real and nonsense, moves to phrases and sentences, and repeated readings of books. We take our role as educators seriously and strive to propel students forward through targeted, explicit, systematic instruction where they will develop a love for reading. We routinely monitor their progress and adjust instruction. We allow opportunities for students to teach their peers and share their expertise. We ourselves are lifelong learners, and we want our students to experience the joy of learning so they can be too.
Moving on from our younger students, one of our fifth graders will now tell you why Leeds is special to them. And here she is in person.
Yay. All right, there we go. All right, Mia, you're up. Leave it right here. You are up. You ready? Okay. Here.
You know,
Nice and
I wouldn't want to be at any other school because our school is just special, and I'm going to tell you why in this essay. After this essay, you might want to change schools or change the school you went to as a kid. If your mind is blown, I don't know any good doctors for that. Sorry. Something that makes me sad is I'm going to middle school next year, so I'm not going to be here as the school just keeps getting better and better. I hope that the new kids coming into the school have even more fun than I did, but that might be hard. I've been going to the school for 8 years, so I wish you good luck. First, I'm going to talk about the teachers. They're amazing, they're so nice, and we have so many of them. We have classroom teachers, self-awareness teachers, feelings teachers, bullying teachers. We have music, art, library, PE teachers. That's so many teachers, just think about it. And that's not all we have. I would be here all day if I was going to name all of them, so I won't today. All of the teachers are so kind. There's not one time that I've seen any teachers yell for no reason, not even once. If that doesn't scream best school ever and then just wait, sit down or stand up, it doesn't matter to me, just so you know. Next, I'm going to talk about the paint everywhere. That might sound a little bit weird, but there's a lot to it. Like outside, we have a mural on the brick wall in front of the school. It was so fun to make. Yep, all of the kids in the school helped make it. I remember the day when we all got a little area to help paint. It was such a fun time that day. I was so happy. One of my favorite days in school ever. In all of the years I've been here, it's been gotten better and better every year, and that's just the truth. And the school has a lot of random fun stuff, like colors all over the place. For little kids, like first, second, or kindergarteners, the colors are really fun, and I'm a fifth grader, and it's really fun for me. In addition to everything I've said so far, next I'm going to talk about the classrooms. I mean, we have everything we could ever need in a classroom. If I'm not lying, no class is all the way up there. All classes have their days where nobody is on task and the teacher can't teach, and the most they can do is clap. I mean, that's not it either. I'm not that bad, but no one's perfect. Not even you or me, it's not possible. And finally, the ending. If your minds haven't been blown yet, I don't know what can blow them. As you can see, I have my proof as to why Leeds Elementary School is the best. I mean, we have awesome teachers, classrooms, anything fun, and a lot more. If this doesn't make this school special, I don't know what will. If you don't think this is the elementary school that you wanted to go to when you were a kid, I have to say something to you. You're right.
Oh, thank you, Mia. We're so proud of you and all your accomplishments at Leeds. I'd like to thank Joanne and Trader for her assistance in developing this video, even though everyone couldn't hear everything. Hopefully you'll be able to watch it again. The many people who assisted with the images and video clips, all the educators at Leeds who go above and beyond every single day. I have lots of gratitude for our students and families who bring joy to our community. And hopefully next year we can showcase our upper elementary grades. At Leeds, we are all the kids all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, can you share the presentation with, or do we have it?
Yes.
Okay, it's not on the packet, right? But
No.
Okay.
It'll also be in this coming month's newsletter too.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Was there any questions? Member Seraphy Cox.
Yeah, thank you. Well, for one thing, so I have one question and then one comment. So my question is the same question that I've asked everybody else who has come for the spotlight. You can't hear me?
All right, hang on. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I said that I have one question and one comment. My question is the same question that I've asked everybody else who came for the spotlight, which is how do you plan to use this video to promote your school to the broader community?
Well, we can certainly add it to our website. We're going to share it out through Parent Square after tonight for our parents. We're going to ask Mia to just do a voiceover so we can include her clip. And then we'll post it out.
Cool. Yeah. As I was watching it, I think one of the most compelling parts was watching the students in school, engaging with the material, because I'm sure that many parents have a similar experience, but that was very different than how I was taught to read or how I was taught math. And when my kid was in elementary school, I remember being pretty flummoxed. I had kind of no idea what she was supposed to be learning, and sometimes I had no idea even how to help her. So that section where you're explaining about the curriculum isn't just for your school, right? That would apply to all the elementary schools. So that section almost seems like a section that could be shared as a resource to parents in the district. Just a thought. Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure. So can I add one more comment? So with all of the new curriculum we have this year, with the new EL program for ELA, the new Bridges program for math, the new IM program for math for 3 through 5, Number Corner. If you could ever get into a school and ask your teacher to see Number Corner, I would highly suggest it. It's very powerful. It's not just a calendar. Last month in February, 4th grade, it had rays, line segments, different shapes, and the observations that the students make through this Number Corner it's just amazing. It's amazing. So, but thank you, Sarah. Emily. Is that it?
Any other questions or comments for Chris? No? Okay, thank you so much. And thanks for your patience.
Yep.
Okay, okay. Cool. All right, we are going to move on to public comment. Again, sorry the system is so clunky today. So we'll take public comment in person and over Zoom. I've got the sign up sheet in the community room. I'll go through the names. For those who are on Zoom, if you wish to make a comment, please use the raise hand feature. You can always submit a written public comment, which is equally part of the public record. So to do so, please email it to northampton-school-committee@northampton-k12.us, and it'll be sent to all school committee members. Before you begin, please state your name and your city or town for the public record. The school committee does not respond during public comment, as it is the public's time to speak. So while your comment should be directed to the school committee, you'll understand when we don't respond to them. There's a limit of 3 minutes per person unless language translation or accommodations for a speech-related disability have been arranged, in which case the limit is 6 minutes. A timer will be set to ensure everyone has an equal opportunity to speak. You have no obligation to use the full time, but if you do, after the limit is reached, you'll be asked to please finish your sentence. The school committee receives public comment for a maximum of 90 minutes. So we are beginning at 7:38. And I'll start with in the room, and Rosie Mahoney, please. Rosie's still here.
Yes. No.
Hey, Rosie. And so, okay, so is that unmuted over there?
There's my helper.
I'm gonna
My name is Rosie Mahoney, and I live at 77 Emerson Way in Florence. I am a junior in the goals program at Hampton High School. My first few years of school, I had teachers and helpers. Then was in fifth grade at Pitt Street. When happened, students like me lost support. I couldn't learn. I was scared. I was bullied. I hated school. Then COVID happened. Just tried, but most students fell really behind. Many students are still far behind. Now I am very close to reaching my goal of getting a high school diploma in high, just like my two big sisters. My teachers and goals and other subjects. Goals and other subjects help me to be a good student. My special education team and counselors and administrators have been very helpful so I can achieve my dream of a diploma and go to college. At high school, I do best buddies youth commission. I voted for the first time last week. I loved going to the Vin's dog show with my dog Willow. Please find money for the school budget. Please don't make any, that's because they work very hard. All students, especially special education students, need support to reach their goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. Next, let's go to, thank you. Jenny Jen on Zoom. So I'm gonna unmute you here. And there, right?
Do it there. Should get muted there.
Can you?
Can you hear me okay? Okay, thanks. Thanks, everybody. You got me? Okay. First of all, it's been really amazing to hear the two students who have spoken tonight and the students who spoke on the Weeds video. Everybody spoke so eloquently and almost said everything that I need to say. So I'll keep it short. I'm here tonight to simply say that the proposed budget cuts, it just can't happen. I'm a teacher at Jackson Street. I live in East Hampton. My daughter Carly is a third grader at Jackson Street. And as a kindergarten teacher, I've been at Jackson Street for, I don't know, 16 or 17 years now. And I can tell you, we're all barely sustaining ourselves as it is. The proposed budget cuts include more cuts to classroom teachers and paras and other crucial staff members who work directly with children. And at this point, after all the years of cutting back and cutting back and cutting back, there's simply not enough resources for the students we currently have. I invite any and all of you to please come visit anytime. You're welcome in my classroom, room 101, anytime you like. Come see what we do every day, come see the challenges that we have, because I think that would kind of illuminate how devastating these proposed cuts would directly feel in the classrooms. It's appalling that the cuts to direct service educators, people that are working directly with children, are even on the table at all. And while on the one hand, I can't really in good conscience come before you and suggest that anybody should lose their job, on the other hand, I have to urge you to not cut teachers or paras or people who work directly with children every day. And if we're at the point where cutting teachers and raising class sizes is our only option, then we seriously need to rethink how we allocate funds to the schools in our town. And I know the history, I know the problems with the money, I know the problems with how we get money from the state and the formulas and our taxes. And I know that some of the solutions to this are really more long range, long term, and probably involve legislative change. But I also know that right now our schools are in crisis and we can't wait for that legislative change. This is the emergency situation is what we're in right now. I'm really thankful, Dr. Bonner, to you that you're working on a strategic plan and you have a committee to look at these long range goals and visions for our school. And I hope that that vision is bold and brave, and I hope it offers some real solutions, not just band-aids to our year after year after year budget cuts and budgetary crisis. Maybe part of that vision involves school consolidation or new school construction or a new way of looking at how we do school in Northampton. But for now, Mayor, we need more Band-Aids. And I know that's to the tune of $5 million or something short of that. We really need you to allocate funds to get us through the next 3, 4, or 5 years until that new, beautiful, wonderful, amazing strategic vision unfolds. The consequences of not appropriately funding our schools right now are great. We want inclusive schools. We want test scores up. We want to close the gap. We want to fix the reading problems. All the new curriculum in the world can't do that without teachers to teach it. The science of reading doesn't happen without the art of teaching. And I can tell you already, can you hear me?
We're just near time for you.
Okay, thanks. I can tell you already that it's a very delicate balance, and cuts will mean less inclusion because 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 kids in an elementary school classroom is not a least restrictive environment. Kids that can't self-regulate, can't effectively learn, the whole group learning gets halted. I really hope that at this point we can say enough is enough. There's nothing left to give. And I propose that we commit ourselves to the long range vision of creating an amazing plan for 5 years from now and reaching out to our legislators. And that in the meantime, we use all the resources this very middle class city has to offer, including reserve money, which is reserved for a reason to cover the cost of things in a crisis or emergency. We are there, we are in a crisis. This is the emergency we've been saving for. Members of the school committee, we're counting on you to say no to a budget that cuts people who work directly with students. And Mayor, we're counting on you to find a way to fund our schools in this time of crisis. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next in the room is Suzanne Strauss.
My name is Suzanne Strauss, and I've been living in Florence and teaching English at Northampton High School since 1998. My children graduated from the high school, and my grandson is currently in elementary school here. In all the years that I've been teaching in town, not once has a budget season felt calm. This year's looks particularly egregious. As I have said recently to this body, the problem is in the process. The time has come to allow the school committee to propose a budget that is appropriate and then let the city council approve it. If not, we are maintaining an elected body that is unable to advocate for our public schools. 30 cuts to staff who serve students is unacceptable, and there could be an ask by the city for even more cutting. No. Northampton has the money to pay for all the staff and services at the current rate, and doing only that does not mean we have excess to establish more opportunities for our youth. The children of Northampton get a good education on a shoestring budget relative to the various needs of our students. We have the personnel to be a soaring model system, but the budget stands in our way. Why don't you let us unleash our potential? How can we consider a 5-year strategic plan, as Dr. Bonner asked us to imagine, if all we talk about is cuts? We should be doing much more for the kids and figuring out ways to open our schedules and campuses to accommodate alternative and contemporary school models. If we decimate our schools, we fall right into the hands of those who claim that public education is an epic failure and messing up our country, and the way to fix it is to go back to the dark ages. I don't want to be complicit in that, do you? We cannot call ourselves a caring progressive city and then slash services to 2,500 children on a daily basis. Providing for them is expensive, absolutely. The cost of everything has risen. In 1998, when I started teaching here, it cost $175,000 to buy a home on Ryan Road. Today, a home buyer can expect to pay minimum double that. It is not 1998 anymore. Let's look at the cost of things as they are, not how we wish them to be. If we eliminate the positions proposed, not only will students get less of everything, but the staff will be demoralized. That is not a recipe for academic, social, or emotional success, which is something we say we value. We have already lost some truly terrific teachers due to budgetary issues, some whom we are considered the best in this state at what they do. We have recently lost 2 principals. I suspect the budget cuts didn't help to sustain their interest in our system. How much do we have to hemorrhage until someone has the courage to say to our city that our city will contribute a higher percentage to education? Recently, in a writing comp class that I teach, we read the story called The Ones Who Walk Away from Amelis by Ursula Le Guin. It's about a so-called utopian town. There's a caveat. A child has to live in squalor as a sacrifice for the whole town in order to maintain the town's happiness. Is this what Northampton has become? What are we willing to look away from, to dismiss, in order to have the veneer of paradise? As elected officials, it is your responsibility to utilize tax money paid by the citizens of Northampton, including myself and many of my colleagues and all of you, to ensure a bright future for all of our students. My mother often said, doing the right thing is rarely doing the easy thing. Let's be brave and do what's right.
Next is Paul Sustick. So there's now a timer on the screen that you can see.
My first time on Zoom. So I'm not sure where, there I am. Pick up the mic. Just to introduce myself, I've been a business person in Northampton for almost 47 years. And I've been involved with a lot of the crises that the town has gone through. Every business has gone through the same type of individual crisis. My feeling today is that no matter how much money it is, that it is available in our community. And I just would like to let you know that the downtown, I'm sure all the businesses downtown would love to help either raise the money or make sure that this budget gets balanced. So I'm not sure how that's possible, but I'd like to offer my services, and I'm sure a lot of people downtown would like to offer their services. Doesn't seem like we're involved, but I know the first thing you don't want to do, and the first thing I never wanted to do when my budget was cut, was to fire my cooks. So the same, you don't want to start to let your teachers go. Anyhow, I'd be glad to give you my service, and thank you very much.
State your name, your town for record, and also call me.
My name is Paul Sustick. I run Paul and Elizabeth's Restaurant in Northampton, and I'm available for telephone calls, right, at my phone number? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Next is Karen Hidalgo.
My name is Karen Hidalgo. I live in Ward 1A in Northampton. I've worked as a high school counselor at NHS for over 9 years. My 2 children attend NPS. Let's talk about counseling at NHS. There may be some misconceptions about our counseling team. 3 out of our 4 adjustment counselors work with students who have counseling services on their IEPs. They are not available to the other 765 students except in emergencies. They should be counted in the Special Education Cost Center, and you need to understand that their jobs are completely distinct from school counselors. And there's currently 4 adjustment counselors, 3 are in the proposed budget. High school level counselors, AKA guidance counselors, work with students on scheduling, counseling, and group lessons for academics, college and career, as well as social emotional development. We do case management for our 230 or so students each. We provide support for college applications, and we write recommendation letters. There is no way we can continue to do all of that with caseloads of 300, which is what has been proposed in the first view budget. Area high schools around the region tend to have caseloads of about 200 to 230. 300 is virtually unheard of at the high school level in Massachusetts. We currently have 4 school counselors for 900, 3 in the proposed budget. NHS cannot afford any cuts. Our enrollment is not down. We need more counselors and more teachers, not fewer. We should not be adding programs at this time or cutting staff to maintain ESSER-funded programs such as dual enrollment. For decades, Northampton underfunded its schools. For many years, this fact was hidden by the method Northampton used for balancing its budget, by underpaying its staff. Northampton was among the lowest paying districts in the state for a long time. A few years ago, the pay finally shifted. As I understand it, we are now in the middle of the scale for our region, but the city cannot now balance the budget by cutting our staff. It is the primary responsibility of the city to fund its schools, public safety, and roads. Northampton is a special place that values many things: preserving land, low-income housing, arts, preparing for climate change, etc. I live here because these things are important to me too, and I support funding them. However, the city of Northampton has funded things like these on the backs of our previously underpaid staff. The city should not now fund them by cutting our already bare bones school budget. Do not accept cuts. The mandate of the city is to fund its schools first. There are many of us who would like to see changes and more money from the state government, but that doesn't change the fact that we need to fund our schools for the 24-25 school year. I'm asking you tonight for 2 things: a level services budget, and if some small cuts do need to be made, to listen to our principal and our union who know our building and understand our needs. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna go, is it easier if I switch back and forth between Zoom, or let's finish the room maybe? Okay. Sarah Haugen.
My name is Sarah Haugen. I live in Florence, and I've been the district-wide physical therapist since 2017, and I work in all 6 of our schools. I'll also share that I'm the parent of a 3rd grade student at Ryan Road who has special needs and an intensive IEP. I'm here to oppose the proposal to decrease the 1.0 special ed teacher position at Ryan Road. I feel this position is crucial to the infrastructure of Ryan Road's special education model, which is unique when compared to our other 3 schools, and this reduction will negatively impact our students. At Ryan Road, we have 6 grade level special ed teachers and 1 additional special ed teacher who works with our students who have significantly differentiated needs. This position was purposefully maintained when we transitioned to the WINS model, and it has existed ever since. This SE teacher is responsible for serving a population of students with moderate to severe learning needs who require extensive individualized programming to be successful at school. Every single one of these students has a dedicated one-to-one paraprofessional, which is the most restrictive level of support our school-based inclusion programs has. This teacher has followed these students from year to year in order to provide continuous programming as students transition between grades. You could ask the question, are the needs of students at Ryan Road higher? Not necessarily, but has Ryan Road responded to the needs of our students since the shift to the WINS program in 2018? Absolutely.
In recent 311 meeting, there was notable discussion and questions about how our WINS model has been implemented and how it is working. Mr. Dixon mentioned that in contrast to some of the growing pains that we have worked through over the years, there remain students in each of our 4 schools that do not fully fit into our inclusion model, and from whom we have had to bring back elements of substantially separate programming in order to meet their diverse needs. These students generally don't have a home base outside of their inclusion classrooms. At Ryan Road, these students do have a space. They have a second classroom, which is overseen by a skilled and experienced special education teacher who provides all of their consultation needs, all of their direct service, who brings significantly modified and adapted materials into the general education classroom, who supervises and oversees dedicated one-to-one staff, and who provides a plethora of daily activities that cannot be captured on a service delivery grid. We should not be dismantling the current model at Ryan Road. Instead, we should be prioritizing preserving this model. This is the model that exists between substantially separate programming and the full inclusion model that will successfully support all of our students. This proposed cut comes at a cost, and those affected are our children. Our children are not numbers, and they're not expendable. These students and their families are relying on us to do what's right, what is best practice, and what results in high quality education that is equitable and inclusive. We must determine other options to address our budget crisis that do not come at the cost to our most vulnerable students. Thank you.
My name is Gito. I am the president of the Northampton Association of School Employees, and I live in Florence. I want to just start by highlighting the incredible statements that you have heard here tonight. Students, business owners, teachers, caregivers. Please listen to everything they are saying. You are an elected body, elected to manage and protect our schools, not to be political. Dr. Bonner, I respect and I understand the difficulty of the position that you are in, especially in your first year joining us. But I do want to say that you are hired to manage and advocate for our schools, not to balance other needs outside of our schools. We need you, all of you, to advocate for what we need from the city. Mr. Dixon presented a lot of numbers the other night at the budget and property meeting. They are just that, numbers, not the actual needs of our children. And might I say, those numbers aren't even accurate because he didn't include any IEP that was pending. I currently have an information request out to Mr. Dixon to find out how many IEPs are actually pending in all of our schools, because he only added up the numbers on current active IEPs. We're not looking at the student needs. What you heard from our students, you heard from somebody who went through our goals program and actually lost it partway in her education. You heard from a caregiver and provider from our schools who works with these children daily. We cannot afford these cuts. Our schools cannot survive them. Our students cannot bear the brunt. Our students can't afford to lose special education teachers, librarians, interventionists, paraeducators, counselors. Our families can't afford to lose school secretaries, special ed liaisons. Many of the things that Mia shared would be gone if these cuts that are proposed went through. Mia, the young lady who presented for Leeds. All of those things that made her education so valuable. So I implore you, please vote a level services budget. Let us go to our city to fully fund our schools. The money is there. The money is there because every year there's leftover in the budget, which tells us that we are underfunding things. We have things in the budget that are not being filled, money that's not being spent. And then at the end of the year, all of that leftover money gets to be put in a fiscal stability account. And then the mayor can claim, well, this is just one-time money. But it's not one-time money if it's there year after year after year. So we need to budget that money for our schools instead of letting it show up at the end of the fiscal year as extra and then getting put into a limited use account. I thank you all for your time, and I implore you to vote a level funded budget to send to our city council so we can adequately fund the Northampton Public Schools. Thank you.
Next is Jade Rousseau.
Hello, my name is Michael Sustick. I live in Leeds. I am a parent of a Leeds kindergartner. I'm also a teacher at Jackson Street School, and I'm a graduate of Northampton High School. So I hope with my persuasive talk here, I can do one of my wonderful writing teachers proud, Ms. Strauss, and Ms. Brown, if you're out there listening, and maybe Ms. Michaels is out there somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, so thank you for your time. I can only imagine how difficult this budget process is. It would boggle my mind. I thank you for your efforts. But I'm here tonight to speak from two perspectives. One is that I am the math interventionist, and that is part of the potential second round of cuts. And while 3 minutes cannot suffice to explain my duties, I will say this. Tier 3 intervention is the last buffer we have between general education and special education. So let me give you a quick idea of what Tier 3 intervention is. Tier 1 intervention is what the curriculum is. Teachers do it every day. They do it amazingly. But of course, we don't all learn at the same rate. So then teachers work in small groups or even individually with students in the classroom to support them. That's Tier 2. This also happens every day. And sometimes Tier 2 is not enough. And then we move to Tier 3, where small groups or even individuals work with specialists, often outside the classroom, who can hyper-focus on the specific missing skills that are making the classroom work hard for these students. Students who come to school behind their peers or are not learning at the same rate have the opportunity, without special education referral, to receive the support they need to catch up to their peers. In a quick tally, I found that for long-term students in my care that have been in intervention for 1 or more years, 5 out of 6 do not receive any special education services for math. Of my short-term students, intervention of 6 weeks or less, no students need math on their IEP. I've had students who start first grade with skills below what we expect from a kindergartner, and by the end of the year, they have closed that gap. They did it because they are not special education students, and given the access, they were able to complete 2+ years of learning in 1 year. But where would they be if they didn't have this intervention? They would likely be funneled into special education because we would not have the support for them. If we are serious about keeping special education referrals low, we cannot afford to remove the only intermediate step that we have in between. Wishing for lower special education referral numbers will get us nowhere. Acting and keeping and even expanding the roles of interventionists is one of the most efficient ways towards that goal. I also speak as a parent whose child is at a school where this position will potentially be cut. What if my child needs support in math? Who will be there to catch them if they are unable to keep up with the curriculum? I know how hard the teachers work. To add Tier 3 intervention to their duties is not a realistic goal, nor is it, as I previously explained, how tiered intervention works. I urge you to reject a budget with these cuts and to fund our schools appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for all your help this evening. That's everyone that's signed up. I'm going to go to the 2 people on Zoom, and then we'll see if there's anyone else in the room. So, thank you. Going to Nico. on Zoom.
Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, wait, we can't hear Nico.
All right.
Michael.
Yeah, hold on. Sorry.
And I want to say thank you again for
Yes.
being my facilitator out there.
Okay, Nico, try now.
Hi. So, other people have said it in more detail, but I just want to say, as a newly back in Northampton person, one of the great things about it is great schools, and I support no cuts. So, no cuts. I think we should find the money somewhere else, and I think we should ask the city to pay as much as they need to pay. Anyways, that's all I got. Nicolas Latondra Cahalane, Northampton.
Okay, thank you. Going to Jenny Podell.
Well, I wasn't sure if you were gonna.
Oh, you're there. Okay. It was one.
Worried on the sign up sheet. I was like, oh, I'll just need to get out of the hallway and do a Zoom.
No, come up here.
Let's just check it. Okay. Hi, I'm Jenny Podell, and I live in Williamsburg. I teach at Northampton High School. I've been here for over 10 years. I'm the physics teacher. And listening to the people speak here was very emotional for me today. And that's saying a lot if anybody knows me. So first, as a student who struggled in the language areas, that's why I teach physics. Reading intervention specialist was something that kept me on track with my peers. And so to see students who need that help, being able to receive that help and knowing that some of my students struggle and that they have that support in school is very personal to me. And the thought that we could remove those people who work one-on-one with our neediest students due to budget cutting is just something I would imagine that Northampton would go through leaps and bounds and hoops in order to prevent. I also teach a lab-based science class, and the most important part of my class is to make things, wait, no, not explode, is to get the kids an opportunity to work hands-on with material. And any cut to a classroom teacher anywhere will reflect a growth in the number of students I have in my room. Right now, with a 75-minute teaching period, if I spend 15 minutes teaching, I spend about 2 minutes with each student. 2. How would you feel if you were a parent and learned, okay, I get to know your student for 2 minutes. And by the time you come into parents' night to meet me, I might have spent 18 minutes with your kid. So to make that any smaller feels like you're really removing my ability to personally know my kids. How is Johnny going to invite me to the football game, right? How am I going to have any interaction with my students who are just on the basketball team? How am I going to have any personal contact with my students if we make that load even larger? Lastly, if you look across our nation, we're having a teacher shortage. Schools are searching for teachers to fill positions in all subjects, and we're looking to get rid of teachers here who have proved that they're worthy and that students love. I think we really need to reevaluate where we're coming from and feel blessed to have as many teachers that are valued and appreciated at the level that they are. So I just standing up here and saying, like, I think that we are creative enough to fill this gap. And I thank you for the hard work it's going to take to do that, because I know it's not going to be easy. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Lena Enton, and I live on Black Birch Trail in Florence. And I have a daughter who went through Jackson Street with Miss Agna and is now at NHS. And I am here to ask you to please fund this, increase funding for the public schools. Certainly not cut funding for the public schools. My daughter right now, she knows some Spanish because we've had the opportunity to invite refugees seeking families to live with us. And I speak Spanish. And I know how important it is in my life. I'm sure that each of you is committed to equity and inclusion, right? And what I see in my daughter's Spanish class right now is exactly that happening. That native Spanish speakers, Guatemalan and Salvadoran students in the classroom are fully engaged, right? Because finally the classrooms run in Spanish. And this is this new Spanish teacher who your proposal proposes to lay off. And instead have my daughter taught by a French teacher who honestly, my daughter's proficient enough in Spanish to catch many mistakes that she made at JFK. And Autumn's my daughter's other friends, I'll speak to them in Spanish and they can't, coming out of JFK, they can't quite grasp anything I'm saying. And then they get into this classroom at NHS where they're engaged with native speakers, where they're all speaking with this young, enthusiastic teacher. And it makes such a difference. And I know that all of you have seen the learning gap grow during the pandemic. Am I right? You've all seen it grow. Now is not the time to cut funding. My daughter is privileged. We're middle class. There's 25 students in her math class. She struggles with math. And she can't get the help she needs because there's 25 students and she's so overwhelmed because it's a tight classroom. They're all crammed in and she can't get the support she needs. We're lucky enough to live next door to a physics teacher who gives her support because I can't remember enough math to help her at the high school level. How can we be cutting teachers? We're going to be increasing classroom sizes. And I know that all of you are dedicated to giving the schools the funding they need and to giving our children the best chance they have. And this is your chance to narrow the gap and to make this commitment to equity and inclusion that I'm sure that each of you are committed to. So I ask you to please, please increase funding for the public schools. If you can't increase it, then level funding. But please increase funding for the public schools. Amherst is paying $27 per student and we're paying $18. We have comparable property taxes. I'd happily pay more in property tax, as would many residents here. We know this is Northampton. We can pull this off. I feel like in Northampton, we can raise the bar. It's like Massachusetts can raise the bar for the nation. We created the example for Obamacare, right? That went across the nation. Northampton can raise the bar for the rest of the state. And I'm asking you to please take this opportunity to do that and please increase funding for the public schools. This is our opportunity. And I know it's a challenge and I thank each and every one of you for stepping up to that challenge. Thank you.
Anyone? Please go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Bernhard. I'm an English teacher at Northampton High School, and I've been there since 1999. I was in Springfield teaching for 5 years before that. Both of my kids went through Jackson Street School, as did 2 of my stepkids. And I love our school system. I love our town. I love all the people who are trying so hard to do what's best. Dr. Bonner, you came and visited my classroom today, which was an honor. You sat at my desk. And yesterday I was telling my students, Dr. Bonner's coming, and someone said, "Oh, who is he?" And I said, "Well, Dr. Bonner is a woman." And some of the girls were like, "Yeah." And then when you came in today, it was all I could, and I told them that you and I had gone to Skidmore together and graduated the same year. So when you came in the class today, I was pretty proud. And I have to say that class that you saw, 22 English 3 students who are not taking AP Language and Composition, I've had them for almost 5 weeks now in the new semester, and they are just settling down to trust each other, just settling down to not have to, hit each other on the back of the head or call each other idiot every time they read a word wrong. And I'm just feeling so happy for them. And I'm just going to give a shout out to my colleague, Suzanne Strauss, who has been helping me keep the hope at Northampton High School, because things are different after the pandemic. Things are different as you grow older. And I want to be a beacon of hope for these students. We're going to go take a bunch of students down to Smith College to hear Ada Limon speak on April 30th. And I am going to proudly bring these guys and try to remember to keep the hope for them, that they can do anything at Northampton High School. Thank you. Please don't make our classes larger. May I just add one more number to the quotient here, and that is that my other two classes are AP Lang classes for juniors. One has 28 students, one has 27, which means 55 students. So if they write one essay a week, that's 55 essays to read and give feedback to, which, as you might know, takes more than 5 or 10 minutes of paper to do. And so we're really working hard. Please don't make our classes larger. Oh, thank you. Hi, thank you. My name is Marisha Marks. I live on Prospect Avenue in Northampton. I have 3 kids in the school system, 2 at the high school at the moment. When I was 9 years old, my family moved from the former Soviet Union to the Boston area. The first year we lived in a fairly low income area with not very good schools. And as soon as my parents were able to get their feet under them and figure things out, they moved to the best school system that they could move to in the Boston area. And that's where I graduated from high school. When my husband and I were looking for a home after we'd moved to Northampton, we looked at some of the neighboring communities that were quite a bit cheaper than Northampton. And we made the choice to settle in Northampton because Northampton had such a stellar reputation for its schools. My 2 daughters that are now at the high school have an amazing selection of courses. I don't remember seeing a selection of courses like that until I got to college. My older daughter was able to take body systems and learn about anatomy. My younger daughter is looking at taking an engineering course. These are courses that go above and beyond the basic math and English and science, which are so, so important. But the choice that they have to explore their interests is amazing. And please don't make that go away. Thank you.
Hold on. Anyone else on Zoom? Please raise your hand. Okay. Leah. There you go.
Hi there, Leah Berkowitz Goslin, Bridge Road. I have a child in the high school and he's gone through Jackson Street and JFK Middle. I just want to stand as a voice to like magnify other voices. I don't have a prepared speech. I don't have the space and kind of energy and time in my life right now to have sat down and done that. But both as a social worker in the community, social worker and educator, really want to just magnify the voices of educators that we've heard tonight and of caregivers really across our community. It's deeply meaningful for me to hear not only the statistics, but the real examples that have been brought to life about the classroom experience that children have. And so I just wanted to take a moment to kind of, I guess, maybe even for just myself to kind of slow down, take a deep breath. You know, this is such a kind of heightened situation that, you know, we're all facing. And I really appreciate the job and task at hand that all of you are facing. It's not an easy one by any means. It's really hard. And I do want to say that not as a plug and not as a to toot my own horn, but I am working really hard on an auction for the band for supporting the instrumental services programming of Paul Kinsman, who Alton's life has really been changed at the high school and really has felt such an incredible community within that program that I was incredibly moved and incredibly I've lost the word, but incredibly motivated just to reach out and to do something. And our program funding is really tiny as it is, so small, you know, that and I'm not the only one. There's so many, you know, right, who are kind of finding different ways to bring extra money into our schools. And so the auction starts Monday. It runs for a month. I say that just to kind of magnify that we're already in a position where, you know, caregivers are kind of doing, you know, putting in the hours, putting in extra, putting it, you know, so many are, you know, beyond anything that, you know, I'm doing, which is a pittance, but I've spent hours and hours and hours. And so I really, really hope we can just, you know, all work again to magnify what's been said tonight. And anyway, thank you. I just wanted to say something, even though this may be my first time, and just encourage others if any.
Okay, next is Tammy. I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, my name is Tammy Cook. I am the administrative assistant at JFK Middle School, and I am also the NACE chapter coordinator for the clerical unit. I have several concerns about the layoffs for the 10-month employees, the clerical employees at the elementary schools. Several years ago, JFK had a lockdown due to an air rifle. We stayed 4 hours past our shifts. We were the first people that 500 plus families called for information. We stayed for those hours because we had to dismiss each child to their caregiver by checking driver's licenses and making sure they got home safely. So imagine that in an elementary school when now you only have one clerical member, one person to answer 200 plus phone calls. We are the first person in our buildings to keep our buildings safe, secure. We know who to let in, we know not to let in. And I just learned that at Leeds Elementary School, one of our clerical members takes a break due to lunch and a 15-minute break, and a crossing guard is covering for her. That is not keeping our building safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Suzanne the Berge.
Hi, can you hear me? Thank you. My name is Suzanne Theberge. I live in Northampton. I have 2 kids at Jackson Street, and I just want to say that I oppose the cuts, and I really support you for level funding for next year. The teachers at Jackson are incredible, and my kids have been so lucky there, and we really would like the same number of teachers to stay, and it's really important that we keep the same staffing across all the schools. Thank you.
Last call. Okay. Seeing no further hands, would you like to speak? Okay. Wait, hold on.
Hello, my name is Tess Ventola. I'm a sophomore at Northampton High School, and I wasn't planning on speaking today, but hearing all of these personal testimonies, specifically about the proposition of increasing class sizes, I was reminded of an interaction I had with my math teacher this morning, in which my math teacher came up to me and said, "Tess, I feel like I never really talked to you," and in a very nice way, he said, "Tess, I feel like we don't really interact a ton, and I want to make sure that you're getting all your questions answered in my math class." And I really, really appreciated him saying this. But the reason why I often feel that I am not able to ask questions in math class is because there are 27 other students also needing to ask their questions. And I am not even someone who finds it very hard to advocate for myself in a classroom setting. But as Ms. Podell was talking about earlier, oftentimes in our math classes and our science classes, we spend a lot of time taking notes, listening to the teacher, doing board work, and there is maybe an hour every day in which the teacher is available to answer questions from the students. And if every student has a question, which is likely in math classes, because math is not an easy subject for a lot of students, especially at a higher level like high school, there is simply not enough time to answer all these questions, and our class sizes cannot get bigger. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your comments. So now we should mute that one, right? And
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for
Um,
being my helper today. Appreciate that. Thank you.
and can we give it back to you or no? No, it needs
Oh, let's just take
to, okay. All right, how's everyone doing? Anyone need a break? Good? You're fine? Okay. You'd love a break? Okay, let's do a 5-minute recess. Come back at 8:34, 35. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I'm gonna trust if you can't hear me on Zoom, you're gonna let me know. One way or another. Okay, so we are at announcements. Any announcements from school committee members? Okay, seeing no announcements, Counselor Foster Cannon? No? No. Okay. Next we'll go to recommended actions or consent agenda, and I'm gonna read the items, and then if there is any, there's one item. So we're gonna remove the first item, February 15, 2024 school committee meeting minutes, because the wrong link was posted. So the only item on the consent agenda is February 15th, 2024 Student Advisory Council minutes. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to.
So wait. Okay, so motion was made by member Agna, seconded by member Davis. Yes. When you're ready, Michelle, roll call, please. Yes. Member Seraphy Cox, I'm sorry, we're doing a roll call on consent agenda.
Oh,
Yep, she says I can't
yeah,
hear you, Michelle, so.
I couldn't hear
Member
Michelle,
Seraphy
but-
Cox?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm speaking.
How do we hear her? Right, but.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I unmuted.
Great. I was saying that I was not able to hear any of the roll call, but if it came to me, then my vote is yes.
Thank you. Member Stein?
Yes.
Member Hennessy?
Yes.
Member Miller?
Yes.
Member Lamonti?
Yes.
Member Agna?
Yes.
Member Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Shara? Yes. Sorry, did did you mute?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, we'll get through one thing. Clunky. Our first new business item is, this is a vote to approve the special ed budget transfer of $58,000. And are you gonna speak to it,
I
Doctor?
can speak to it, but I was just trying to, Bobby's online. I just unmuted her, so. Bobby, do you want to speak to
Yep, I can
the
do.
special ed budget?
Yep. So basically this is just one of those transfers that,
Bobby?
yeah. You hear me?
She was.
Can you hear me?
No, well, I was trying to make it so we could hear Bob.
Michael, is he far enough away?
I don't know that it
No.
matters.
I don't know. Bobby, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
She says, I can hear you. Can you hear me? No, we can't hear you.
I can hear you.
Now we can.
Right,
Okay,
but
can-
how do we stop the echo?
How many?
Now try, Bobby.
Can you hear me? Okay, that's working. Okay, so this transfer is basically just one of those that are going from at the time of budgeting. We budgeted for a placement that we thought might be in that category, but ended up in another category. So it's really no change to anything except for moving it from the non-public to public. So it's just a inter-office or transfer. Sorry.
Member Seraphy Cox.
I would like to make a motion to approve the budget transfer, and not a part of my motion, but also a suggestion that things like this probably could be a part of the consent agenda as well.
Okay, looking for a second. Okay, motion was made by member Seraphy Cox, seconded by member Agna. Any discussion? I don't even know what. Okay. Seeing none, I'm gonna mute and I'm gonna go to roll call for Michelle. Okay.
Member Foster Cannon,
Yes.
member Seraphy Cox,
Yes.
member Stein, member Hennessy,
Yes.
member Miller,
Yes.
member Levante, member Agna, member Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Shara,
Yes.
member Gazy.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that passes. Next, we're up to the first reading of policy ACAB, prohibition against sexual harassment and other forms of harassment and discrimination, and policy ACABA, Title IX, sexual harassment procedures and grievance process. So I assume am I going to you, member Gacy? Okay, I'm gonna mute.
Okay, can you, little bit of an echo. So both of these policies were redone in 2020. The only reason why we are bringing them to you is to put in the name of the new Title IX coordinator, which is, where's Michelle Patcherick. And you'll find that on page 4 of ACAB and page 3 of ACABA. So other than that, no changes to the policy were made. And so do we have to have a motion to move forward from the first reading to go back for a second reading, or no? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about either policy? Great, then I'll move right on to the no trespassing order. This was brought to the rules and policy by the superintendent, and it has been vetted and changed a lot by Attorney Taylor. Maybe Superintendent Bonner, you would like to speak about the reason that we wanted to do this. I'll mute.
Very briefly, We just wanted to make sure that we were in alignment with the law. There were some concerns and issues of past practice within the district in terms of placing no trespassing orders on some of our caregivers or constituents. And so we wanted to be in compliance with the law. And so through the help of our council, along with ACLU, we've formulated this no trespassing policy, which I will then share with our administrators.
So this is another, oh, I can't unmute again. I unmuted. Oh, great. So are there any questions or comments about this that you would like us to take into account? Oh, Mayor Seraphy Cox, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, is this a policy? It doesn't have the letter code?
So this is really based upon the law, and we found that MASC did not actually have a policy that spoke to the no trespassing. And so the subcommittee can kind of figure out if they want a special lettering to go with this policy to determine how to place it within our guidelines. So that's why you do not see the famous lettering that is on there.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Yes, we have other policies in our policy collection that are not MASC policies, and we assigned our own letter code to them, I believe. So there would be, you know, that precedent for this. But that was my question. Thank you.
With no other questions, I'll let you all move on to.
You're muted.
That further, without further discussion, we can move on, Mayor. And we'll take these to second reading.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to reports and recommendations, and
Can I? I don't really want to do much. Do you want me to do it?
I don't know.
So with the difficulty that we're having with technology this evening, I would ask that I save the presentation on discipline data for another time where we can actually spend some time. I think that right now our minds have really been on focusing on budget. But this was in regards to a request that was made in a grievance that was earlier on last year about having the school committee to take a moment to dive into our discipline data and to see the disproportionality amongst our students in terms of students of color who have been identified or isolated more so than non-students or students who are in the majority. And so if you don't mind, if I could save that presentation when we are up and running smoothly, because I also need my, I need to share my screen. I don't want to go there tonight again.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to Bobby's business administrator financial report. And
Okay.
hold on, let me.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. So my information is in your packet tonight. I'll go over the monthly expenditure report in April in brief detail. But otherwise, as I always say, welcome any questions at any time. But that's all I have for that stuff at this point.
Are there any questions for Bobby on the report? Okay. Seeing none, thanks, Bobby. Sorry, this keeps buzzing at me. Okay, moving on to school committee discussion topics. And I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. CPAC report from member Gazy.
I'm the representative to the Special Ed Parent Advisory Council, which has really become quite robust since the pandemic. There is a general meeting, usually on the fourth Monday of the month, that goes from 6 to 7, and there's also a caregivers connection where parents and caregivers can share resources and questions. They are also sponsoring a new IEP training. The IEP comes out, I think we'll be starting it next year. It includes a lot of student voice in the new session. So there is a training on April 29th on Zoom from 6 to 7:30 about that. They also have a basic rights training about evaluation and eligibility. That's on March 25th from 6 to 8. Can I share my screen? I wanted to just show this. Let me, that. I think I can. Does it share at all? Yes. So this is the new website for the, for that. Let me get it bigger there. And the web address is Northampton CPAC, SEPAC, at Weebly.com. And if you go there, they've got a calendar with all kinds of dates of upcoming events. They have a bunch of resources, including federal and state agencies that are helpful, Family Ties of Massachusetts. They've got Advocacy League, Real Northampton, ADHD, parent caregiver support, and all kinds of other information, including specific topics like accessibility and technology. So it is really very full. On all their events and workshops, they have childcare and Spanish translation available. There is a Google Groups listserv that you can find if you go to the, let's see, Contact Us page. And that, boy, I tell you, I find out things there before I do on school committee. They're very up to date, and there are a lot of people trading information and resources. And the final event that is the most fun of the year is the one at the end of the year where they honor the special ed teachers, and nomination papers are coming out soon. They haven't said, they should have a date in a week or two, but they'll send, I think they're going to send out nomination papers maybe in backpacks through Parent Square, and also they'll have information on it at their website. So a real plethora of resources there at CPAC, and they are a wonderful group. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions about CPAC? Okay, thank you, Member Gazy. Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to take off my screen.
Oh, okay, moving on to Budget and Property Subcommittee and Member Foster Cannon with
the budget update.
Yes, just a update from the subcommittee. Oh, did I? Yes, I unmuted. And it's not echoing. Update from the Budget and Property Subcommittee is that we met earlier this week on Monday with Josh Dixon to discuss special education services, services that have been promised to students and kind of where that is fitting within the budget. Our next meeting is going to be Monday, March 25th. We're still putting the agenda together. But that meeting will be from 6 to 8, and the city's finance director, Charlene Nardi, as well as Bobby Jones will be there. So that we, as a subcommittee, have this opportunity for a discussion regarding the budget from both the school side and the city side, while we're, you know, to inform us just before we hold our full school committee discussions and votes on the budget. So that is what's coming up. That meeting will obviously be posted on the city website once we have the agenda put together.
Thank you. And then were you gonna speak to Member Seraphy Cox's memo, or was you talked about it at the subcommittee, or was Member Seraphy Cox going to?
We were not able to talk about it at the subcommittee. It wasn't linked to the agenda and we ran out of time. And so Member Seraphy Cox, I believe, was planning to speak to that this evening.
Okay, Member Seraphy Cox.
Yeah, and I think actually the issue with me speaking at the subcommittee, Member LaBounty rightly brought up that there was no public comment in the subcommittee meeting, and so when a member of a subcommittee who is, sorry, when a member of the committee who is not on the subcommittee can't speak, like you can review things in writing from other members of the committee, but a member of the committee can't speak to a subcommittee unless the public is also allowed to speak. And that was something that she brought in from her MASC training, which clearly I need to brush up on. So, although I do remember that when she said it. So that was that plus the fact that I was sick meant that I couldn't speak at the subcommittee. But yeah, so my back in January, I had put together some thoughts about the budget process and how we're thinking about the budget, etc. I had sent it to the mayor and Superintendent Bonner, and had talked, you know, with them and with Vice Chair Agna about how to share that with the rest of the committee. So this is the eventual result of that. I did actually speak to the Budget and Property Subcommittee about this back in January, just verbally, but I'm glad that, you know, the kind of full context of my thoughts are able to be shared with all of the committee members. So I would say that the main things that I want to highlight from, you know, y'all can read the extent of my thoughts, but the main things that I would highlight from them are especially my thoughts on a way forward. And I heard much of actually of my thoughts echoed in some of the public comment from this evening as well, especially around like the kind of multi-yearness. Sorry, I'm trying to summarize, plus I've literally been laying in bed all week. So today was my first vertical day. But so really needing to integrate multi-year planning into our budgeting process, because, and I think this is especially important as we're entering into contract negotiations for the next year or for the next several years, so that our our budgeting planning isn't just a single year to single year. I think that's going to be really important, and it is especially important because as we're seeing now, we're in a situation where a single year's, when we're trying to catch up, as it were, during a single year, that creates a situation of cuts that are clearly, feeling draconian to our community. So that is a major thing I would highlight. I really have appreciated the school spotlights that we've been seeing, and I think that they are especially important, as one of the things that I am highlighting here is a need for investments in communications or community outreach, as it were, recruiting students to our schools, because connecting with caregivers, especially those of preschool age, they're making decisions about where they're sending their students, future students, their kids, and it's not just about PR or something like that. It's really about actually sharing what is happening in our schools, because otherwise we rely on the fence, what are those called? Fence post conversations, like neighbor to neighbor. Certainly when I moved here to Northampton, when my kid was in first grade, we asked around about where to send our student for school, and that was a part of our decision about where to live. I also, in this same vein, Julie Spencer Robin, who is on the Smith Vocational Board of Trustees, she did her dissertation on parent decisions that impact enrollment, specifically in the Northampton Public Schools. We received a presentation. Well, the previous school committee, 2 school committees ago, I guess, received no, it was the previous one? Okay, well, there are some members of the school committee who did not see that presentation, received a presentation from her. I think, it was a really impactful presentation, and yet there, maybe the administration has taken steps to implement some of those things, although I don't think Dr. Bonner necessarily, probably has seen that presentation. Just there weren't action steps from there about how to actually integrate some of those ideas into action. And I don't know, maybe that could even be a part of the strategic planning. Sorry, I'm trying to prioritize as well what I want to actually talk about. And so then coming to the budget decisions that we face in the coming weeks, when I look at the budget situation, I see that we are in a situation where, we, regardless of how we got here, it took years to get here. And so it will also, the spreading out the impact of actually addressing the needs of the schools. I'm sorry, my brain is not working at its full capacity. Anyway, I really appreciated that Dr. Bonner was thinking kind of ahead of thinking, okay, if we need to make further cuts, and identified the $300,000 worth of cuts that she brought to the Budget and Property Subcommittee on Monday. And some of those cuts are less student facing than the cuts that were in the first view budget. So I think there's a possibility there to reduce the impact of the cuts in the first view budget. And so I think that's something that we should look at. And I also, though, just want to say that, well, I guess I said it back in December, these cuts cannot stand. Like the level of cuts that we even we're seeing in the first view budget would be very, very, very difficult. And in some cases would, as Josh Dixon told the Budget and Property Subcommittee on Monday, in some cases would not allow the school district to address the legal requirements in IEPs. So definitely some difficult decisions ahead of us, and my written word hopefully is more articulate than my spoken word this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know how you feel about fielding questions, since you're not feeling well, but any questions for Member Sarah P. Cox? Yeah, I'm gonna mute and you're gonna unmute.
I'm unmuted now. Okay, thank you. So first I want to say I really appreciate you put a lot of time and thought into these, into the suggestions, into the whole write-up. And I wanted to ask a general point of question. You're sort of part of our parliamentarian thing as expert as well. My understanding of how we vote on budget is that the school committee votes on the cost center level, not line item level, and that it is the superintendent and the administrators that decide what those things look like underneath the cost centers, because we are not the experts in those schools. Is that an accurate understanding of how this committee has previously gone about that work?
I'm not sure if that was a question for me. Anne, of course, has been on the committee in years previous to me, but since I joined the committee 4 and some years ago, we have not voted on it in that way. We have voted actually, like, the motion might be something along the lines of, I would move to approve the FY blah 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 budget with the following changes: reinstating the 6th grade teacher at JFK, and cutting the, I don't know, math coach is just one that example. So it was down to the position level. Does that, sir? I don't know that there's a policy about that, but that is the past practice anyway.
Okay. I think my question was that because just having newly been trained, we were sort of told that we were not line level approvers necessarily. But I guess if we have policy or something that says we are, then we can consider that. But we aren't the experts on those lines. So I guess I want to make sure I understand what I'm actually going to be voting on when it comes to the time. So.
Very, very quickly, I'm not going to speak to that. I mean, I don't know what the tradition has been. But past practice in other districts, it wasn't that detailed. And I hope that in this district, that there will be some consideration of the input of the administrators who would know their building and who have made these recommendations based upon what is priority for their buildings. So I'm hoping that that the school committee would consider that, because I know that although the work that member Sarah B. Cox put into her thoughts, she did not include conversation with the administrators. But she did reach out to NACE, and I will say that NACE shared these similar thoughts with me. And a matter of fact, in the second round of cuts, some of their thoughts were actually in there. But remember, you hire your administrators to manage and run your buildings, and I'm hoping that you will consider their suggestions as well.
I saw member Hennessy's hand, but I don't see it anymore. So just if you raise it again, I will be on lookout. But member Agna.
Oh, sorry, can I just, can I just tag on to what Superintendent Bonner was saying? That, okay.
So Emily, if you had said a bunch of stuff, we missed what you were saying. So I'm sorry, could you start?
I was just asking if I could tag on to what Superintendent Bonner had said. Yes, and in agreement with it, absolutely. As I have shared with Superintendent Bonner, my training from her previous permanent predecessor was don't talk to the administrators. So that's my initial impetus is not to talk to members of the alt team. So it certainly wasn't meant as a slight. But yes, that's true. I had not. And part of the reason why I didn't talk about the alternative cuts during my little rambling spiel a little bit ago is because honestly, I feel like the other pieces of it are more important. The alternative cuts were not for me, the focus of what I wanted to communicate. But yes, thank you.
She's still. Bobby, where's Bobby? Bobby, did you want to speak to this? Hold on. Can you make? Oh, she has a co-host.
She's there. Yeah, I was only gonna say I wouldn't mind clarity either. It's in my past experience, it was that the school committees voted on a bottom line. So I just want to make sure that when all is said and done, that it's a really clear bottom line that we're gonna vote on. So that I know what we're moving forward with for a budget. Hopefully that makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Bobby. I'm gonna mute you though. Hold on. Member Stein.
For some reason, sometimes it just switches inexplicably. So I'm concerned, I'm okay with whatever way we decide to go, if it's going to be light items or cost centers. The practice has been line items because of the committee responding to particular constituent needs or overwhelming sort of public support. And I do think that's okay. I'm more concerned that what we got in the first look budget is not what the alt team suggested. And I say that because at our last meeting, I specifically asked Principal Worley about the cuts, the specific cuts listed for NHS and how he was recommending them in the context of the situation. He said, that's not what I recommended. I would not recommend cutting a counselor. I didn't talk about specific bodies. We talked about general bodies. So I'm concerned that we're actually not getting the input of the alt team just based on that experience and based on the fact that I've been requesting the budget from which cuts were made to create the first look budget for 4 or 5 weeks and finally had to put in a public records request for it. So like, I don't know that we're actually getting the sense of what the alt team actually thinks they can afford to make cuts on and not, and if they are making cuts, which ones those are going to be, because Principal Worley clearly had no idea that those were the cuts that allegedly he said were the ones to make when we were presented to them a few days prior to our last meeting. So my trust is low in the idea that we simply high level trust the process. You don't talk to administration. And I think we need a lot more visibility into the recommendations that are being made by the alt team. I also want to say it was compelling, the presentation that Director Dixon gave the other day. He was tasked with going through the service grids and figuring out if the first look budget could actually meet our minimum legal requirements. And it can't in at least one school, and he recommended areas of caution across the board. And as other members have pointed out, or not members, I'm sorry, members of the audience, he also said this doesn't include anything coming. So it's likely that the first look budget won't even meet our bare legal requirements. And so I find it unlikely that he is suggesting we make cuts to that cost center or some of the student-based cuts. So I mean, honestly, my trust is low in that we're getting the picture from what the administrators are saying is possible. Thank you.
The member Hennessy had been on the school committee previously, and I just wondered what she had to say. That's all.
I don't want to put Member Hennessy on the spot.
You could. It's okay.
Oh,
Sitting here sick.
wait, hold on. Sorry, now we can hear you. Apologies. Okay, please start again.
Okay. So my memory, I am sick, so my memory might be not as great as it normally is, which isn't great in any way, but was bottom line. However, meaning approval of bottom line. However, with that said, there are times when if something were recommended to be cut, which was like a program that we could consider, you could actually almost consider policy. No one ever wanted to eliminate all AP classes, but for example, we would absolutely have a say in that. However, we really did trust the alt team working with the superintendent to make those recommendations. And Gwen is sitting there as part of that alt team when I was on the school committee, who made those very difficult decisions when I was on it. So it was never the line item because, this is my own personal philosophy, I'm going to trust the experts with that. But we do have to trust the experts and know what they really want. So I don't know, Margaret, if that answers your question, but that's my memory of that.
Thank you. Member Agna.
Okay. So, I spent a sleepless night last night, because as you pointed out, Member Hennessy and Member Stein has pointed out in the past that I had the hat on of an administrator for a long time.
And this is sort of like PTSD for me, thinking about this kind of situation that we're in. So I got up and I started writing some things, and I hope it's okay if I read. So I read a survey about the tone and tenor of the US right now. The range of emotions found in the survey are exhaustion, dread, depression, fear, and impending evil. Optimism doesn't rank very high. I'm only saying this to help with the perspective, not to minimize our situation, but to say that we are not alone. In fact, in a recent Boston Globe article, an overview of Massachusetts school districts said nearly 5 years after Massachusetts lawmakers overhauled the state schools funding formula, districts are struggling to balance their budgets for the upcoming school year, prompting many to consider cutting programs and staff or asking taxpayers to dig deeper. So as we all know, the overhaul of the funding formula from the Education Reform Act to the Student Opportunity Act left us out due to our demographics and our declining enrollment, mainly. What a catch-22 it is, but we are fortunate to have Senator Comerford and Representative Sabadosa doing all they can to help us in our district. And we have a city government working on affordable housing projects. But for me, the elephant in the room is the Proposition 2.5. It has been a punishing and corporate-fueled law from its inception in 1980 and has caused such damage and pain in our Commonwealth. There are other states who have similar tax revenue caps, but not many of them. And of course, real estate taxes are regressive and unfair. But in a perfect world, we would have the wealthy pay. In a perfect world, we would have the wealthy pay their fair share. But in Massachusetts, we have to deal with this limitation and have to go head in hand to voters for overrides rather than make it part of our social contract, asking citizens to pay according to their means. I hope there can be some energy somehow, somewhere to eliminate Prop 2.5. I'm sure many have tried to do it, but I think it's worth retrying as much as we can and reforming our tax code, and please not reducing taxes for the wealthy. In the meantime, as an educator, I know the damage that can be done by reductions of student-facing personnel. I used to tell prospective caregivers as a principal when they were exploring the Northampton schools that no, we don't have instrumental music or world language in our elementary schools or librarians, but we do have class sizes that make it possible to reach and teach all. Having worked in our schools for more than 30 years, there were other budget crises when we had to eliminate teaching positions and elementary assistant principals and elementary librarians and recess and lunch aides, and I could go on, and ended up with class sizes in some of our grades at 28 and 30. It was not good, and we worked our way back, though, as we have now. Research is all over the map, like much in education, about whether or not class size has an impact on achievement. But there has been an agreement in Northampton that it does have an impact, given the incredibly wonderful and also challenging diversity that we have. I believe that teaching is the hardest job of any profession. Air traffic controllers come in a distant second. I know this to be true and often said that in my role as principal, that it was much harder to be a teacher than to be a principal. Member Stein asked at the Budget and Property Committee meeting last week if we have enough to meet the needs of our students. I hope we can approach and use that question in our strategic planning and add families and educators to it as well. And finally, I know we need to support our educators. I also know we cannot or should not impugn the motives of our city leaders and school administrators and our superintendent and the school committee and the city government, because I believe that we all want what is best and right for our children. How can we resolve this terrible situation is anyone's guess. Perhaps looking at our district budget for any non-student facing costs that we might have overlooked. I ask that question with the deepest respect, having been in this position before, having been on the all team, and knowing that we went through things with a fine-tooth comb. But I also trust our administrators that they have tried and will continue to. I thank all of our constituents who've spoken and written to express their concerns. I think my inbox is now at about 100 emails. And the information swimming out there in the public right now is all over the map and must engender some distrust of us, the school personnel, and we, the elected officials. So in the next few weeks, we must come together and get our facts straight because we're all in this together. And that was my musings last night. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else who has yet to speak? Okay, Member Stein?
Thinking about the big picture as well, and I know no one wants to talk about the past. We just want to look forward, but it is worth pointing out as we look at the Globe article that the company we're in with other districts, we might all be feeling pinches, but we're feeling them for different reasons. The funding formula changes that we hoped would get us somewhere were just simply never going to get us anywhere based on the collective property wealth and collective income of the town and our flat enrollment. So that's not the reason we're struggling, right? The reason we're struggling is tied to what I think Karen Hidalgo said earlier. There's a long time we balanced the budget on the backs of the employees by paying low wages. And we started to make up some room. We committed to some programs that we didn't fund by increasing appropriations over many years. And we used a reserve of school choice funds to balance it to the tune, I think, of over $2 million last year. And so that chronic underfunding is now coming home to roost. And we have a real tough political choice. And the way the city works, the mayor through the charter gets to decide what department is getting which increase. And so we're in a position where we're being told it's a 4% increase. The superintendent's creating a budget based on that, gave us a higher one, now says we might need to go back to 4%. And we're in the position because we're the only department in the city that has an elected deliberative body. We have to decide if we're going to support that or not. But the alternative is we say, no, we think we need X amount to adequately fund. And then the city council can make reductions in other areas. I mean, for me, I find it hard to believe that there aren't other areas in the city budget that are more important than making sure kids can read, or making sure that we don't lose valuable educators, or making sure we don't accelerate the exit and the decline of our enrollment. It's a $114 million budget. There's a lot of room to look for other cuts. And I would say the question has to be, overall in the city, is something that we have more important? And if the answer is no, we need to fund this. The other thing I want to say is that we have overrides, and they sell overrides as for the schools. We're very popular. People like to do overrides for schools. But the difference between the 2.5% and whatever the override amount is, we don't get the majority of that. So we sell, we get about a third of the, little more than a third of the tax base discretionary income. So if you think about 3.7 or whatever percent we're on this year, which is 1.25% over 2.5, right? Are we getting all of that? I don't think so. So I feel like we sell the schools when we need an override, but we still get cut. And we pay for other things, and we create new divisions, and we create new departments, and we create commissions, and we create resilience hubs. But when it comes to adequately staffing the school, we don't do it. And ultimately, these are political choices. Our system puts the power in a strong mayor to make them all for us, unless we choose to do otherwise. And that's the reality we're faced with, and that's uncomfortable. And we are going to have disagreements. And that's just a political question. And that's what we're elected to deal with. Thanks.
Member Hennessy.
Thank you. I guess I have a question. I have a question and a comment. My comment is that I agree with Member Stein. We do have the opportunity to send it back to the city council. I think and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, if we had a 2/3 majority, we could send it back to the city council. True?
Hold on. So you could, so it depends on what I incorporate into the budget.
Okay. Okay. All right. So my understanding was that if we did vote and it was a 2/3 majority, it could go back to the city council, who could be kind of charged with, now you look at the trade-offs because we can't see the whole budget, and they might say, sorry, here's what you got, what you got, and that's okay. But so I guess I have two questions. I'd love some more clarity on that. And then the second, my real question is, I've been reading a lot about the Resiliency Hub, and one thing that stood out for me was both the request for private funding and the $200,000 donation from Smith. And I'm wondering if there's been any, I guess I'm wondering what your thoughts are, Mayor, on, or what you know about whether or not Smith would be willing to donate more or donate anything to the schools, and what, yeah, so that's my question. Thank you.
Sure. Hold on, let me mute you, and then I think that'll maybe solve that. So they did donate $200. So the hub was purchased fully with grant funding and one-time money. And they did contribute $200,000 to it. I have a meeting scheduled with Smith to reinvigorate the conversation around a regular, so, as you know, or as maybe you know, Smith does make sort of periodic donations, but they're one-time money donations. There's not a, with like what would be considered a pilot or something that's an annual contribution that they make in lieu of taxes. So I have asked them to have that conversation. Wait, hold on. If you're speaking, I can't hear you. Okay.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Does that answer your question? Oh.
It does about Smith. I'm very concerned, and I know that Amherst Public Schools.
Oh, shoot, I'm so sorry. Hold on. Sorry, what were you saying? We couldn't hear you. I thought I'd unmuted you, but I hadn't.
We're talking about Ann Hennessy now, right?
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm glad you answered about Smith, because I know that Amherst Public Schools are asking Amherst College. And, I know they're not a panacea, but they could certainly help. So thank you.
Yes. So I had already weeks ago got on the calendar to have that conversation with them. But we put in an extra little call today after the article in the Gazette and said, just wanted to make sure you saw this. Any other discussion? Oh, Member Seraphy Cox.
Yeah, just wanted to circle back to Member Hennessy's question about the 2/3 threshold that she was talking about. In my experience on school committee, we've always passed the budget by a simple majority, not a 2/3 majority. So I'm not sure what the 2/3 piece is. And a simple majority that includes times when the budget that we passed was higher than the amount that that Mayor, I was about to call you Mayor Gio. You know what I'm saying. Thank you.
I know what you mean. I think that's right, that it's a majority, but Member Hennessy, hold on, I'm gonna unmute you if you're gonna respond.
My understanding is that when we pass a budget, it's majority. My 2/3 was, from my understanding, perhaps a misunderstanding, that if we were to send it back to the city council, then we would need a 2/3 majority. But I may be wrong.
So,
but doesn't it go to the city council automatically? That's the part I'm not understanding.
May I speak again?
Yes.
My understanding is that if we said we want to level service or level fund this, we want more money. And send it back so that the city council then has to give us more money before we approve a budget or not. So we're not approving or not, we could just not approve, we're not approving this, but if we want to send it back before that, we would need a 2/3 majority. Again, this was a conversation I had with another city councilor recently, but whose understanding was that's what we would have to do if we wanted the city council to discuss the trade-offs that the city has to make when funding the schools rather than just the school committee. And again, they could say, sorry, we're only funding everything else by 2.5%. We have nothing else to cut. This is what you got, approve or not approve. But if we want to send it back to them before we even vote on it, then we would need a 2/3. So we're not even voting on it, we're sending it back would be a 2/3. And this might be so.
That's not my understanding of the process. My understanding is, so the school committee has to vote a budget, whatever it is, and then you essentially then give it to the mayor. The mayor then incorporates the two school districts' budgets into the rest of the budget and puts forward a budget to the city council. Now, if a mayor puts forward a budget that has less than a school committee has voted their budget, then the only time that a city council can increase an amount is up to that amount that the school committee had voted. Otherwise, all they can ever do is make cuts. They can never do an increase, but that is the only situation in which they can do that. But there's not like a negotiation that would happen between sending it to them and sending it back. They get the full budget, and then it's an up-down vote unless there's that one provision, which is the only time that they can make any adjustment as an increase. Otherwise, they can just make cuts. And I saw Bobby nodding. Wait, hold on, Bobby. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, so that's what I've always heard too, is that whatever the school committee approves for a budget, they would approve knowing that that budget can only go down, it can't go up. Yeah.
And that's not just how we do things in Northampton, that's Mass General Law. Okay, Member Hennessy.
I'm sorry, I don't want to take all this time from everyone. I guess my question then becomes, what if we want to increase it? What if we say, as a body, we want more funding? And then we can't do that with this budget, can we? Or
yeah, you can. Okay. You would have to vote it.
Okay, and that's a simple majority.
I believe so, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
So can I talk? Yeah. So as a school committee, I would say you would want to approve a budget that you feel comfortable approving. And then it goes to school council, and the only way that like you wouldn't want to go lower, you'd want to go higher, knowing that school council, or not school council, but city council might say, we can't afford that, we can do this, you can then reduce your budget, but you can't increase it.
Yes. I mean, I would add, but it is the school committee's job to put forward a budget that
reasonable budget. Yes.
Yeah. They
agree. Yeah.
And it's not the city council. City council also by Mass General Law can make no, school committees can't tell city departments what to do, and city councils can't tell school committees what to do with their funds. So you wouldn't want to abdicate your responsibility to the city council, who can't make those judgments for the schools.
Agreed.
You have to unmute.
So just, okay, are we all set? I think. So I just want to make sure I understand what you just said. Mayor, that so if we were to send a budget to the city council, they can't say totally, for example, well, we can't do that, but we could do this. How do you feel about that? It's not it's not a negotiation situation. That's, you see what I mean? In the line item-y kind of a way. That, okay.
Yeah, it's just an amount. But they can't tell the school, they can't be like, well, actually, we really would like you to reinstate this, but we're gonna take it. No, all they can do is increase up to an amount that the school committee has voted, if that was not what was incorporated into the budget. Okay, I'm gonna go to member Miller.
Okay, I have a couple questions. First of all, my understanding is that this is a first reading of the budget. So are we gonna be voting on it tonight? No, I didn't think so. Okay, I just thought that. So the other thing I guess I was wondering is if basically there's cuts in this that we can't not tolerate, that we just can't approve. We have to vote no on the budget. And then that's what would send to the city council. No, I got this wrong. Okay, explain.
So you have to approve a budget by April 16th, I think is the date, right? 15th, 16th? A budget must be voted on by the school committee by that date. Yeah. Okay. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I'm gonna go to member Gazy and then I'll come back to you, member Seraphy Cox.
So April 16th, we have to vote a budget. By April 16th. And I don't know about the rest of the people, but this budget that we have in front of us is nothing that I can stomach. And I just, like, if we're going to ask for more, when do we have to start thinking about it? Who do we have? I mean, we can't talk to each other except here. Our next meeting is April 16th, I assume. Oh, no, there's going to be more budget meetings. So is there anything that needs to be done right now along that line of thinking about, are we all clear about our options here with regard to this budget? Do you want, say, now this is all just, say I wanted a level funded budget. I was trying to save money for the schools, I mean, for the city, but support the schools. Obviously, a level funded budget is not the best for our children. The best for our children would be spending a lot more. Should we vote larger than a level funded budget? Because I don't know how that goes. Or just, am I saying things that I shouldn't be saying right now? I'm just trying to wrap my head around this whole process.
Oh, sure.
So whatever this body decides to do, we have the numbers for you. And so we can share those numbers with you at the next meeting on the 25th of what those numbers are. We can share with what we started with, which was it's going to be a large budget.
Yeah.
And then you already have what we did in terms of reducing, trying to meet a target.
And that target
And
was
that's
the 4.3.
that's the first.
Is that the
Well, actually, we never got there. The
Oh.
target was 4%. However, the first view budget is 7.97% increase. So you have that budget. If you were to put the suggested reductions back in, that's going to get you to, and Bobby, because we keep going back to the level funded and level services. We want to use the correct term there.
Thank you.
And so those numbers are available and that we can have ready for you. So you would have access to those numbers. So then you could decide, as what was said, the bottom line this evening, not this evening, so the next time that you meet, or you can decide somewhere in between that, or you can go with first view, but you have the parameters. And we started, unlike what was stated earlier this evening, we started with the original requests from all the administrators. We have those numbers. That's where we started. And then we started to reduce.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you just tell me the difference between level funded and level services?
Bobby has the mic.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that because that actually was thrown out a lot tonight, was level funded. And I don't think anybody's looking for level funded, because level funded would mean that we would get the exact same amount of money that we got for fiscal 24 with absolutely no increase. Level service budget means that you are going to have or can continue with the services that you currently have, plus your increases to contract. If you had a level funded budget, you would have to do your obligation of the increases. So that would result in a lot more cuts than what we're looking at already. So it's level services is what you're currently working with now. And, typically you'd want a little more if you could. But level funded is something you definitely don't want to do if you can avoid it, which would be to be funded at the same amount that you were funded in fiscal 24.
So level funded would be without the 1.46 million increase. And so just to clarify also, so what the first view still had a $2.7 million deficit.
Correct.
Correct.
And if you went back to where our jumping off point was at the very beginning, that would put us at like a $4.7 million based on what the fiscal stability was with the 4% less the 1.2. No.
Would cost 4.7 million. Right?
So 4.7 is what the deficit is with a 4% increase.
If we went with our very first draft budget of 42,805. What we did as a first view budget was the 40,778. That left us with the 2.7 million. Deficit based on the 4% increase less the 1.2 million. But without the first set of reductions that was shared, plus some other housekeeping items and other things that we shifted around, would have resulted in, if we went with the very first jumping off point budget, that would have resulted in a $4.7 million deficit based on the 4% from the fiscal stability. With our second round, or with our first view budget that we did in December 14th of 2023, that left us with a $2.7 million deficit based on, again, that 4% increase less the 1.2 million of the first time use.
Okay. Member Foster.
Gonna unmute. And you're gonna mute. Okay. I guess I have two thoughts. One is, actually just one quick question is, do you know, maybe Bobby, you know off the top of your head, the amount of money that's in this year's budget that is ESSER funding? And if you want to dig through, I have something else I could share if you want to find that
Yeah,
number, if you know.
In the first view budget,
Well,
we
can
have.
go. Hang on, let me mute and the mayor's gonna unmute so we can hear you.
Okay, Bobby.
In the first view budget as compared to, first view budget that we showed on December 14th, eliminated the ESSER positions with the exception of paraprofessionals that were added in FY24. They weren't budgeted for it, but they were added. So we have 2 additional paras that were ESSER funded in 24 that we included in the 25 budget. But the other positions, which if you look in your budget books, you'll see what those positions were, and I can look it up in a minute, but that was, I can look in my book. But is that answering your question?
No, but if you want to look in your book, I'll share another thought while you do. Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate it. The amount, the total amount was what I was
For this current year's budget.
from the budget we're working off right now.
Fiscal year.
That includes a significant amount of ESSER money. I'm curious what that number is because we're talking level services next year without access to that money. So
Right.
that's what I'm trying to nail down.
Did she hear that?
Did you hear that, Bobby?
Oh, sorry, I didn't. I was looking.
So to clarify it again.
All right, thank you. What I'm asking is for this current fiscal year's budget, that the talk and what we're hearing is the request to level service. I'm curious how much of this current fiscal year's budget is ESSER money. So just that total.
For the FY24 budget.
Hang on a second, Bobby, I'm gonna.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah,
So you're
Bobby, I
looking-
think that's what they're saying. FY24.
Okay. Yeah, and that is in here. I just gotta find the.
Bobby, if you remember, that $400,000 was towards special ed. And then there was the regular ed salaries, which was probably about 390,000. Close to another 400,000. If I round.
Yeah.
For staff salaries such as the math interventionist and the reading interventionist and math coaches and five of the paras, which we move most of those into the operating budget.
Right.
So if that is correct, and double check me, so it's roughly about $800,000 that's in our operating, that contributes to our operating budget for this current fiscal year we're in.
Correct. 400 is from the special ed, which we included. And then I'll have to get to that page for the teachers, but I think you're right. That's probably right around there. But it's hard to listen and look at the same time.
Okay, so then the other comment or thought I wanted to share, so on March 25th, we'll be meeting both with Bobby and with City Finance Director Charlene Nardi, and I think that is a good opportunity to have this conversation about what these impacts are and what that means and where we are on the journey to an override, and what different scenarios would mean. And so I would encourage other committee members, it's not the practice of the school committee, to participate in subcommittees, but send those questions that you have ahead of time, and we can share them with Finance Director Charlene Nardi, and then we'll know exactly what we're talking about. And also, I do want to say that the previous fiscal year city budgets, they're available for looking. And so, you know, this, yeah, I think it's important. I have heard misconceptions, and I'm not saying I'm hearing them tonight, but I've heard them from many, many times in the public, you know, like a confusion about what projects are happening with ongoing city funds, what's happening with grant funding, or, you know, with one-time funds and all of that. And so I think that those are really important conversations to sort out, to make sure that people understood. Like, I definitely have gotten my fair share of emails of, you know, we shouldn't do Main Street because we need to fund the schools. And yet the Main Street funding is coming from like the Department of Transportation. So that's not going to the schools. And so I think it's important to clarify what's coming from where and where it's allowed to be allocated. And then to look at the past year's budget, and we can look and see, you know, what departments are, where their services are at and where they're getting, because there is this perception that there's money around. And so let's dig in and look and actually answer the questions, and really look at that. And so I do encourage committee members, please give those questions to me. I'll share them so that we can have this robust discussion, and make sure that we all have access to the numbers and the figures and exactly what we're talking about. Yeah.
So
Hold on,
just,
Bobby. Okay.
just to confirm. Yeah, 400,000 for the special education tuitions, and then 393,000 and some change for positions. Yeah, got it.
Thank you. Okay.
And
What, Bobby? Oh, no, okay. Okay, member Sarah P. Cox, while I have this unmuted.
Yeah, just a quick note, back to the kind of like, if we pass, you know, let's say that we pass a budget at this level, and the city council can increase it up to our level or anywhere underneath. And let's say that they don't increase it all the way to what we pass, but they increase it, you know, somewhat here, then that difference, am I correct that that difference would, as it were, come back to the school committee, and we would work with the superintendent, and she would obviously work with the alt team in order to, as it were, you know, balance the budget with whatever cuts need to be taken at that time. And am I correct on that process?
Yes.
Okay.
So the city council couldn't dictate where those cuts should go.
Exactly.
That is purely something under the school committee.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Wait, let me mute that. Okay, member Stein.
Bobby, this is a question about the ESSER money. And so for the 400 that is special education, is that for out of district placement costs or for staff or what?
When we were preparing for the budget, we called it out of district tuition, but we also had to fit that in for to make sure that we were using the ESSER funds appropriately. So the 400,000 was for special education costs, not necessarily out of district, but certainly special education costs.
Okay, and are the other 400, what type of staff, what cost center staff is that funding?
That was for a math interventionist, a reading interventionist, math coach, and paraprofessionals or ESPs.
And I think what's hard for some members, you were explaining the 4% on 1.2 and this sort of stuff. I'm wondering if you could just give an overview again, right? So we got a certain appropriation from the city. I don't remember the exact number that included the Chapter 70. I don't know if it was 37 million. I don't know what it was last year. And that was a certain increase over the previous year, right?
Right, so when the finance director for the city is doing their budget, they're looking at all revenue sources that come in, absolutely all revenue sources that come in. We, Dr. Bonner and myself, went off of what we saw in the fiscal stability plan, so that we went with that 4%, that the city had put that in the fiscal stability plan, that we get 4% no matter what. So that's kind of the numbers that we were trying to work off of. That's what we're working off of. That doesn't mean that that's all they're giving us, or they're not giving us, or they told us they give us. That's just what we are working with.
Right, so I think what's hard for some members to understand, and the public too, is 13% or whatever these percentages are sound really large. And the reason they're really large is because we were making up that difference with other money for a long time, right? So that 1.2 million was money needed to fill the hole of going negative on the school choice, right? So the reason why we're having such a large catch up right now is because there wasn't enough each year. Which means that, like, if we want to use this framework, right, and say, well, the fiscal stability plan is only 4%, and it's being subsidized by other funds for multi-years, it's not a fiscal stability plan, right? We have an unstable practice, and the only way to rectify it right now is to have a large increase, or have massive cuts, which no one seems to think is a good idea. So, like, that's the political question for us, right? That's what we all have to decide. The 4%, I mean, but that's the nature of the problem. And I feel like a lot of people don't quite understand that, right? It's not the funding formula from the state. It's not the reimbursement rate from the state. That's a contributor, but that wasn't subsidizing us for 4 or 5 years. I mean, you gave us that budget graph where you laid it out. In order for us to give these services, we would have had to have higher percent increases over a number of years. And you would not have 1 year that was 13.3%. And I guess I'm asking, like, when we went negative, right, how much were we using the year we went negative out of the school choice fund? It was like 2 million, was it 3.2? Like, I know we had to pay some back. Like, what was that amount? Because that was what was subsidizing us providing the services for that year. Okay? And then last year we cut 600,000 in whatever positions, and we got 1.2 from the thing to sort of balance it. But the problem didn't go away because we still are carrying all these costs that we've paid for unsustainably. So, like, I just want people to understand, like, that's the nature of our problem, and that's why this is such a large deficit rate. Because the increases each year for many years were not enough.
Yes, agreed. I mean, we did. We have, well, in the past, we relied on one-time use funds. Being school choice, being ESSER funds, being whatever. And you can't do that when those funds dry up, which they did. Then you're stuck in this position. Yes, agreed.
And do you know what, like, the figure was the last year we had any of it to throw at this?
I'm sorry, say that again. Sorry. Can you repeat your question, Member Sir?
Sure, I'm just trying to figure out, like, the last year where we had any money left in that, the one that we went upside down in it, how much money did we spend out of it to sort of subsidize the budget? I'm just talking about the school choice, not even the ESSER.
Yeah, so school choice, you're starting to go upside down, back really in fiscal 19, and on.
And
But
what was
those,
the last year when we exhausted the whole account? That's what I can't remember. I can't pull it up right now.
when you exhausted everything was really fiscal 22,
3, 4.
21. Change the balance. I mean, you didn't fully exhaust it, but the use of it is in your book. Again, if you look at the use of the school choice monies, your changes to your balance you started depleting your balance that you had, which ideally, if you talk to anybody, what in DOR or whatever, what you really want to have is that you have 1 year's balance in your account so that you can use and rely on that same balance all the year. But when you started declining was in fiscal 19, you started using more than you were getting in. And that continued. Fiscal 20 was better because of that was fiscal 20. That was the onset of COVID. And then fiscal 21 all the way through, you ended up in fiscal 24 with a negative $1,017,000 projected at that time. That's not even reality. That's projected.
And what was the amount of that was above before we went negative? Like, I'm trying to figure out like what that total amount was we spent from that year from school choice, even the deficit spending.
2,167,900 in FY24.
Thank you. Yeah, it's important to understand the subsidy that we had for so long. That subsidy is dropped, which is why we need such a large increase now. I want people to understand that in the public, and I want the members to understand that's why this is such a large gap. And ESSERS is part of it, but this is, in my experience, a bigger part of it. Because we used ESSERS money to fund actual one-time things, whether it be testing, whether it be masks, whether it be all sorts of COVID technology. Those things were actually one-time funds. So we use the school choice in a different way to sort of subsidize not getting enough from the city to fund what we needed for operations. And so the plan, I'm saying, if you looked at it and stepped back at the time, and this is nothing we even knew when we came in, we had to find out because we only do budgets of what the city appropriation is, right? Until this year, we only really talked. We would talk about it, and we'd pass budgets and they would say it, but we wouldn't see all those pieces. And Bobby's changed that this year, where we are seeing this stuff.
Well, no, I would say that this has been shown over the last couple of years, that at least I see. There has been a report from my previous predecessors that have shown that we were overusing school choice funds. That's been a while. That wasn't overnight, I don't think. So, but
yeah,
I mean,
I guess I'm just saying, like, I don't think the committee understood what that meant.
Okay.
To vote on budgets.
Myself, had been used for years, but in a planned way and not overused. So like other reserve funds. I'll go to Councilor Foster in 1 second, but I kind of to your point, Member Stein, it's sort of a simple math equation, which I think I've said before. We can only raise, 2.5% plus new growth. And that's what the new levy limit is. So for this year, we could only raise 2.74 million. And with a promise of 4% for the schools, both districts, that's 1.9 million. So that leaves then for the remainder of the city, that leaves 840,000. So it's Prop 2.5, as to your point, Member Agna, creates this limited amount of revenue that can be raised every year. And so I know 4% doesn't seem like a lot, but as we've talked about before, 4% on a big number is a big number. It's a lot. a guarantee of 4% is more than most districts get. Is it sufficient? We don't, there's no question. I will never argue that we have enough money for public education. It is one of the main drivers of my life is talking about the fact that we don't properly fund public schools in this country. The way we do it is unconscionable, but these are the limits at which we can raise revenue. And you have to look at recurring revenue. You can't, as this is a perfect, as you're pointing out, the perfect example of why one-time revenue, using it, we can look at the example from last year, right? Our deficit is so much bigger this year. We filled a gap with one-time funds. The year before, I had said, adding this extra $250,000, there is not an identified recurring revenue source for this. It's going to create a bigger deficit, and it has. So it has to be a recurring revenue source because every year these grow. They compound every year. Member Foster.
Thanks, and I just wanted to clarify, I was asking about the ESSER funds, but I was in no way trying to say that our issue here with the budget is directly that. I mean, there are positions that are funded with ESSER money, so that is a piece. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I'll 100% ask any clarifying questions I need, and I didn't mean to say that they were completely intertwined. I was just trying to get that from my understanding on a much larger level.
I just want to say too that the Prop 2.5 sort of guillotine is real. It squeezes, right, all of us. But the question then becomes the ability to do overrides and other spend. You have to weigh things. And what I'm saying is we're in a moment where we have to weigh across the city. Maybe we can't afford to do X that we wanted if we want schools that are adequate. Like that's a different conversation. And you setting the percentage, you're telling us you are weighing something over this because these are real costs, right? And so that's why I think we're saying, let's send it to the city council and let them weigh it out, right? Like the question, there's only a finite amount of money. So we can't just pretend that it's just this increase here and then that's all we could give you. It's like, it's the whole, it's the whole pot. And some things are limited, but a lot isn't. And so you're making judgments and values about what's more important. And there are a lot of things that are important. I love a lot of things that we fund. But do I think we should fund those instead of the schools? When it comes push to shove, I guess no. I think we should fund the schools. Like that is a effect of Prop 2.5. But that's the choice, right? And so for me, that's the political moment and the political decision. It's like, how do we want to value the schools and how are we going to appropriate our resources? Even if that means we harm something else we also value. You have to make judgments among limited means in some way. And right now, the way the process works, it's held by one person on weighing all this, unless we do something else and the other body does something else. So I hope we do that. I hope we're willing to vote the budget we think we need. And if the city council agrees, great. If they don't, they don't. And we find a balanced budget from what they give us.
So again, the rest of the pot doesn't fill the deficit. You know, it would not fill what the deficit is. What's the remainder of what can be raised this year? I understand what you're saying about other departments, but so every department, like the schools, also has contractual obligations that need to be met. Councilor Foster, did I go to you already? Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Any other discussion?
Any other comments? Okay. I'm sorry. So seeing none, we're going to announce these are the future meetings. So rules and policy. Oh wait, Member Sarpy Cox.
Two things. One is I think we need to
Okay.
schedule the special budget.
Wait. Sorry. Start again.
Two things. One is I think we need to schedule the special budget meeting.
Michelle,
And then Oh, good. And then the other is I am wondering, we've been having reports from like some of our liaisons, like the CPAC liaison this evening. I know that I've heard that the capital projects work has started up, and I'm curious if we could get an update from our capital improvements liaison. I don't remember who that is, but I just was curious if that could happen at a future meeting.
Yeah, that was member Davis. Wait, hold on.
KFC. Sorry, I mean.
So member Seraphy Cox, do you mean the person who sat for capital improvements plan that is being introduced right now? So the FY25 plan, or the person who has been appointed for the next year, for the next term? Wait, can I hear you?
I don't know how to answer that question. I
understand. Why would you? So the capital planning process is a late summer fall process that then gets put together and was submitted by me, I think last week, a couple weeks ago, for a hearing coming up. So we're in that process right now, but the person who's who's been appointed now did not serve on that committee because it was the prior term.
And the person who served at that time is no longer on the committee.
No, it's member.
No?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then I would say. Sorry, I thought it was member Levy, former member Levy. Then, yeah, I mean, the capital improvements plan that is being talked about at city council now-ish, right? That's the one that I'm curious about. Or that's what prompted my question, but and I'm assuming that the newly appointed member has no report because they have not done anything yet.
Except it was a former city, she is a former city councilor, so she may have things to say.
Well, whomever then.
Yes, I'm the new representative to that committee, but yeah, I'm not up on it.
Hold on. I'm not sure where the feed. So I don't know if you could hear that, but member Davis said she'd be happy to speak to it, although she doesn't, it was months ago. You're also welcome to contact me if you have any questions. Okay, and Bobby, go ahead, Bobby.
So I was just gonna say, I'm happy to share what I know with you, member Foster Cannon. I have a pretty good idea of where we're at and what we've requested, so feel free to reach out to me as well.
Thanks, I will.
Okay.
Yes.
Member Seraphy Cox, so one of the main things that I want to say about it, about my experience on that particular committee is that it's an eye-opening and very informative because we hear from the whole city, all the departments, and hear what their needs and their long looks of, well, we can wait 2 years for this, but we need this right now, and we can wait 5 years for that. And it's police and fire and DPW and the schools and the buildings, and how they rank things and how they pace the work and all the many different pots of money that things come from, that it's not all just one big pot and this is a grant and that's not. And but we make recommendations and then it still goes to somebody else's desk. So, on that committee, there are no firm, you're getting this, you're not getting that. Like, we don't, and it's people from various, backgrounds. So it's very interesting, including the city council, one representative from the city council. But if you'd like me to write up something of what I saw or heard, I'm happy to do that. Is that good?
Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. I don't know if you answered that, Member Seraphy Cox or not.
Oh, that's a accurate description. I served on the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee in the city of Minneapolis for 4 years, I think. And excuse me, it's a citizen, like it's that same kind of body, except it's all citizens from each ward who represent their ward. But it's a very similar sort of process and so forth. So that was a really accurate description of what that process felt like. So it's good, to hear that it's a similar process here. But no, I was thinking about the reports and, oh gee, we haven't had one from there. And I had heard it being discussed in my neighborhood association meeting. Was really the only reason why I brought it up. But yeah, so in whatever form that takes, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, Member Stein, and then we would moved on and then have backtracked.
Just to Member Seraphy Cox's question, I recommend reading it.
Wait, hold on. Wait. I don't know if we lost her.
I don't know if that's just the screen, the bigger screen.
Oh, it's you? Oh, the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh my God, thank you.
Okay, so. Yeah. Oh, did my head just, yeah.
So the Zoom's still going. We're just not mirroring it.
Right, all right. Okay, so everyone look on your, okay. Thank you for helping us figure out what just happened.
Thank you, Sarah.
I was just going to say that I recommend colleagues take a look at the plan. And I hope that we can integrate more of the plan with the strategic planning process. I mean, when I look at it, I do have a lot of concerns. We're making some investments in a number of elementary schools around energy efficiency. At the same time, we're discussing the broader infrastructure. And does it make sense for us to be sending $3 million here and $2 million there or not? I know next year we're going to get $600,000 for new tennis courts at JFK. Is that the most pressing school need? I don't know. And people have weighed all these things out, but it's detached from the school committee in our process. And there's also just a lot of grants out there. Hadley High School just got, I think, close to $3 million for their heating system renovation through other grants. So for a number of those projects, we should really be trying to get as much grant funding as we can. And right now, they're slated to be funded out of various, capital funds that we have. So, yeah, it's I think the current one's like almost 400 pages. But if you scroll through these things, you'll get to see both what's slated for each fiscal year, which cost center it's coming from, and various things. And as a school committee, we're just looking to see what the school pieces are.
Yeah, this is also not on the agenda, so we're really kind of gone far afield of this discussion. Okay. All right. So we were going over okay. Do you want to talk about this scheduling a special meeting before I read the other meetings? I'm looking at you, Michelle. Should I read the meetings and then we'll? Thank you. Okay, so this is what is scheduled right now. Rules and Policy Subcommittee on Wednesday, March 20th at 4:30. This is a presentation on state school funding by Tracy Novick from MASC. Is on Wednesday, March 27th at 5 p.m. And that location is the Senior Center. That's a room that should be able to accommodate, and hopefully the tech's gonna work better than this. Budget and Property on Monday, April 1st at 5, curriculum sorry.
25th.
Okay, Budget and Property on March, that's right, 25th at 6 p.m. And that's just on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. Curriculum Subcommittee, Wednesday, April 3rd at 5 p.m. Superintendent Evaluation Subcommittee, Monday, April 8th at 5:15 p.m. Student Advisory Council, Thursday, April 11th at 6 p.m. School Committee, Full School Committee, same day, Thursday, April 11th at 6:30 p.m. Rules and Policy Subcommittee, Wednesday, April 17th at 4:30 p.m. And then we're up to scheduling a special additional budget meeting. So this should be after March 25th, well, because that's when Budget and Property is, but before April 11th. And did we have
3 dates that we say 1, 2, and 3?
I can't find my calendar. 3 dates, 1, 2, and 3. April 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
How are people's schedules looking for that?
What JFK said about space.
Sure.
So Monday, they said usually Yoga's in here.
Okay.
But they said they could probably do it. The second is really good, it's wide open, and the third, there's a meeting in the library till 7:15. But this space is open, so if you need to separate, you wouldn't be able to separate.
I mean, it sounded like Isley would be fine if we didn't meet here.
No.
And that finding a different location until they can square away with what's happening here might be better. Or doing it just on Zoom. Cause it's March 14th. I'm not, did Isley say by what date?
He did not
For
say
the
this date,
special,
not for
they
the
were saying,
specials.
yeah. So we could look at other locations, or it could always be fully remote. And that would provide all the, access for everybody. How are people's schedules the April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd? Wait,
Second is great.
oh, that's great.
It'll be real late in a second.
The 2nd is not great for me, but could people do the 1st? Yes. Member Stein? Oh, and hold on, I can't see. Member Hennessy.
Got her thumb up.
I can't, oh, there we go. There's Emily. Okay, I got
Yeah.
2 thumbs, great.
Mhm.
Anyone can't do the 1st, how about that?
What time were you doing that regular 6:30 or?
I think I'm flexible after 6. Anne says that's fine.
Should we try remote? Because that allows everybody to.
Should we say remote? Yeah, I don't know. I don't have access to the calendar to see what's available or not. So we, oh, that's the hearing room. I don't feel like the hearing room is great for hybrid. I know that it has equipment, it's just it's not, there's a whole microphone issue with that room too that we've struggled with in the past.
Yeah.
So really the council chambers is the best setup.
It's a special meeting, is there public comment? Because I'm thinking about access and
How many people would be in the room?
Well, that would be up to the school committee to decide.
Which day?
So Monday, April 1st.
Okay. What time? Okay.
Okay, 6:30. Tuesday's not good for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Monday would be better anyway.
6 or 6:30, which one?
Yeah.
I think special meetings, we typically don't have public comment. Hasn't that been the practice? past
That's,
practice?
I think generally, yeah.
Yeah. We've had several of them last year and we didn't have public comment.
Several special meetings.
And you'll have another opportunity for public comment on the 11th.
Yep.
Okay, do we want to do 6 or should we stick to 6:30? I can't see it.
Are we passing a budget on the 1st? We're passing it on the 11th, so it's gonna be a perfect study.
I mean, it could be on the agenda. And you could say possible vote, but I think likely no.
Any way you can send out an email about this, just so I.
Yeah.
Make sure I get it all ready.
Oh, yeah, Michelle will do it.
That might be an
Yes.
idea to have a possible.
Oh, wait.
Did we know?
Emily says 6 is good with her. Sorry, what was your question?
Do we know where yeah. No. Oh, you'll let us know.
We were
Either Zoom
debating
or-
whether just doing it remote, which will
Mhm.
solve the technological issues, and then we don't have to worry about ensuring, hold on, let me,
If we're not having public comment, just have everybody in Zoom and.
Well, it said 10:30. It's after 10:30. It's 10:41. You guys need to extend the time for the meeting.
no, not if we do it, not if we wrap it up by 11, although.
Executive session.
I vote remote.
I would just be worried about voting that night if we don't allow public comment. I think we can do remote either way, but we had a vote that didn't allow.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So our plan was that April 11th.
To save the vote for the 11th?
Yeah, I think so.
That was the plan anyway, so.
Okay.
Because I would just, would not be taking.
Yeah, I think that's.
They wouldn't have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're saying 6 o'clock remote
On the 1st.
on the Monday, April 1st.
Not April Fool's at all.
6 or 6:30?
6.
6. Okay, great.
Okay.
And, okay, so we do have an executive session, yes?
Very quick.
Okay, someone want to make a motion for going into executive session?
Request to enter executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Open Meeting Chapter 30A, Section 21A3 to approve and release executive session minutes and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares.
A motion made by member Agna, seconded by member Davis. Chair does declare, and we will be adjourning from executive session and not coming back into open session. So anyone who's still with us, thank you for joining us this evening. We will see you later. Okay, thank you.